Oh, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. How are you? Welcome. It is Wednesday. It is time for another podcast where we discuss professional wrestling for a couple of hours right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And leave a like if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application as well. All of these things are welcome and do help grow the podcast in their own little neat ways. So I'd be very appreciative if you could show a little love that way. You can also show a little love by joining the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description. If you want to join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show community of wrestling lovers, and also you can follow me on Blue Sky at MrWarrenHayes.show if you want some quirky thoughts here and there. Now listen, today's podcast is a review show where it's exclusively reviews. That's what we're doing. I reviewed stuff for almost 3 hours. So, anything else I think would be insulting for your to your time. If I were to extend this to let's add another, I've got more stuff to say. Let's go to 4 hours. No. So we're reviewing two shows today. We're of course reviewing AEW All Out and of course the CMLL 92nd anniversary show, both which happened just a couple of days ago. And so that's what we're doing. It's just as simple as that. So sit back, get ready to enjoy some thoughts and reviews. It'll be my pleasure to deliver them to you. Unless you're a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel over on YouTube right now, then you've already had access to these reviews for a couple of days now. Because members of the channel over on YouTube do get early access to all of the reviews that I do here. So maybe you'll want to become a member, show some support. Why not? Why don't you hit the join button? That'll be terrific. Anyway, enough plugging, enough chit chatter, enough banter, even though it's not very banterous. Let's just get to it. Thank you very much for being here. It is now time to review AEW All Out 2025, which took place on September 20th. 2025 over there in Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the old Scotiabank Center. It was a good show. I enjoyed it for the most part. There's not much, there aren't many matches. There aren't many matches that happened on this card where, I was pulling my hair out, or that I felt miserable, or on the other hand that I was rubbing my hands together going, oh boy, can't wait to come bury the shit out of this one. No, it was fine. It was a good show. Don't get me wrong. Was it a great show? No. Was it a mid show? No, either. It was good. Just a good, solid moment of entertainment that has occurred here once again, offered by professional wrestling outfit All Elite Wrestling. I don't know what else to say. It's a show I think that is ultimately nondescript in a such that I think, barring maybe one real surprising result, because I do think that there's one match that had a bit of a shocking result that I don't think people were necessarily expecting. It wasn't exactly a newsworthy, it wasn't exactly a big newsworthy event. And I'm saying this despite the fact that there were some terrific matches and some nice surprises nonetheless. So, it's like, am I sort of, what's going on here exactly? Am I just complaining for the sake of complaining? Am I trying to mask some kind of disappointment? No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm disappointed. I expected this to be a good show, and the matches that delivered. The whole back half. There I am going into some kind of weird accent transition. What was that even? Back half? I don't know. Am I suddenly like some kind of Southern U.S. farmer or whatever? Back half. I don't know what I was doing. Blame it on me not drinking coffee in the morning anymore. How about that? Let's just blame that. Why don't we blame my medical condition on that happening, right? That prevents me from enjoying the great, robust flavors and aromas of coffee every day anymore. That's what that is all about. Anyway, the back half of the show really delivered. I mean, look, there'll be nothing like getting down to it, starting to break everything down, getting into the nitty gritty. But we can absolutely start by checking in on attendance. Our boy WrestleTix, at the moment that I am recording this on Sunday, the 21st, of course. And no, I don't think it's the first day of fall. I think the first day of fall in 2025 is on the 22nd. I believe so. So, well, maybe by the time you're listening to this, it will be fall, because happy fall, everyone. Good tidings to all of the chilly weather lovers out there. We are one. But as I'm recording this on the 21st, the WrestleTix was able to come up with the final count for the show. And according to them, 12,222 tickets were distributed. Almost sounds like a working number, but WrestleTix doesn't work. I mean, doesn't do works. No, that sounds it's not a worker, is what I'm trying to say. So that's a good attendance. That's good. I think they had set this up for a little bigger. It's not a sellout from the full capacity of the building, but I think we were very close to selling out the. We were very close to selling out the amount of tickets that was, or the amount of. Excuse me. What's the word I'm looking for? The amount of tickets that were made available. The setup, Jesus Christ. Okay, there finally. Okay, boy, this just might be a rough one, folks. Holy smokes! And the setup, look, I just checked, 12,646. So we were very, very close to the intended setup, and so that's like, it's a good gate. It's good attendance. I don't think it's going to be like a high revenue event. It's 12,000 people, and in Canadian dollars, it's not exactly, we're not exactly tearing the house down as far as income, but it's a good, the place looked packed, it felt packed. Although I will say, this Toronto audience, I don't know if they were into it the whole way. I don't know. It was a bit of a strange audience. I think there were matches here where the crowd, like particularly the main event. And I have a theory about that, and might as well just, without getting into the main event, I don't know exactly what this crowd was waiting for, because the main event was tremendous. I thought it was an excellent match, and it really was great. And everyone, both guys, both Hangman and Fletcher, but again, I'll break it down in a few, but both of these guys were absolutely delivering a high caliber match to cap off the show. And I don't know what that audience was waiting for. Like, they should have just given more. I don't know. Like, again, I don't know what they were waiting for. I don't know what they were expecting. And then when I say I don't know what they were waiting for, has me thinking, maybe they were waiting for something to happen. Someone to pop in, some interference, some shenanigans that unfortunately permeate and happen quite a bit in pro wrestling, and particularly in main events, where you have all these run-ins and all these people showing up, not unlike, let's say, what happened at All In, where I know, tons of people online, a lot of people around me were like, this is great, this was awesome, having everyone and their mother running in to take part in interfering in this match. And I ultimately thought it took away from it, and I was like, this is disappointing. I didn't hate the match, don't get me wrong, but it did knock it down quite a few pegs for me. And I'm watching that main event last night, and I'm just like, this is terrific, this is great, and it's a straight up one-on-one match, clean finish, and I was super into it. But are we at a point right now where, and this is not necessarily just AEW's fault, this is like wrestling in general over the past couple of years, are we at a point now where these main event angles are expected to contain, story elements where people show up, there's surprises, there's run-ins, and ultimately that's what the audience waits. Look, when I still watch WWE and I'd review, let's say, bloodline matches. Well, one of the things that when Roman was on top, let's be clear. I haven't. We're not getting into that. We don't go any deeper, Warren. You don't need to. But like, especially when Roman was on top, you could feel that the crowd, the audience, was just waiting for something to happen. They were kind of the match was secondary to the run-ins, the Usos showing up and Solo Sikoa, and then Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and it would all all of this match structure wouldn't really matter. It's the run-ins, like the minute there was the ref bump, then people go, oh, here we go, and then the crowd would get loud. Now, I'm not saying that, and I thought that WWE did this egregiously. And I thought ended up, really, really harming their main events and, didn't harm it in the eyes of their fans, which is all that matters really, because people really liked it and I thought it stunk. But it's an effect nonetheless that I feel is permeated through wrestling. And I also think that AEW has dipped its toes into that quite a bit. I mean, look at last pay-per-view. Look at the MJF Hangman Page match that we got, where remember that finish that was just full of twists and turns, and you're like, why did we need this? Why couldn't we have just had the straight up thing? Or if you really want to have Max, do some cheap heel bullshit that'll blow up in his face, which I'm for, by the way. Well, you can do it in much less convoluted, complex, overwhelming stuff that just takes you away from the match. That just changes the complete, that invades the match to a point where everything that happened before has no precedent, because you kind of just hit a reset button here. That was the issue with the bloodline matches, is that whatever happened in the match previous doesn't matter, because it's from this point on that everything matters. Everything you built beforehand is just like, it's filler. It's nothing. It's just stuff happening, and who gives a shit? So I'm wondering if audiences have not been conditioned at this point to just listen to, like, watch a wrestling main event and expect the shenanigans, and don't get into it, because the expectation, as conscious or unconscious as it may be, is that something is going to happen that will require me, that will get me excited. So in the meantime, yeah, you guys are doing wrestling, isn't that nice? But when are the big surprises going to happen? And that when it doesn't happen, then it's like it's like the crowd is like, oh, the match is over and it was a clean finish. And that I think is an indictment, though, that a clean finish has people going, oh, clap, 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 as opposed to fuck yeah. I think that's an indictment as to how wrestling audiences in the United States, anyway, Canada, have been trained. They've been trained to react when the interferences happen, but then when you have a straight, clean finish, people are like, oh, they're surprised and they don't know quite what to do. When the clean finish should be what the majority of the time you're getting. It should, most of the time, that's what it should be. Like the number of people I saw, in my circles who were like, who were surprised at Chris Statlander's winning. Like, whoa, what? And yet I'm like, sure, like isn't this how we should be doing it? when we're coming to our pushed commodities, our champions, the people that we want to throw our weight behind, shouldn't we be setting them up to be truly successful and, allow them to have a moment where they're like, yes, there's no question here. This person is the champion. They won straight down the middle. There was no nonsense. We weren't goofing around. This is your champion. And we're talking for babyface champions, of course. Heel champions is that's a whole other kettle. But you see what I mean? Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? It's like, why is it that the clean finish is something that people go, oh, and don't quite know what to do with that? And that kind of bothers me. And look, I mean, and I remember a time in AEW when the clean finish was the standard. When that was the thing that would happen more often than not. And when there'd be interference, then you'd have people wagging their finger. You got people putting their hands on their hips, going, doing one of those. But now I really feel it's the opposite. And I feel like that Toronto crowd, particularly for the main event, was waiting for something to happen, despite being told there will be no interferences. Now, you can apply wrestling logic and say, oh, they're putting so much emphasis on no interference from the Don Callis family, and that then something else is going to happen, right? And that's how poisoned, I guess, our wrestler brains have become, where we're like, even when we're told a thing, we're expecting the thing that we're being told to be a device for the work, a device for the surprise to happen. It's like I saw theories that, Chris Jericho's going to interfere. Sure, okay, but why? And don't get me wrong, I don't want to make something super clear, just in case it's getting muddied in all these words that are pouring out of my mouth. I legitimately believe that this is the best outcome of a clean finish. I loved it. I love this match. I love how it ended. Anything else would have been weird. I am not calling for more interferences and whatnot to make the crowd happy. I think wrestling audience have to relearn the value of a good, clean, straight up one-on-one wrestling match with no gimmicks or nothing. Like outside of the non-interference gimmick, which really should not be the gimmick. I talked about this on the preview. You shouldn't be, like, the gimmick for the main event was no interference. I mean, that should be on for all of your matches. You know what I mean? Like, that should be the baseline for every match. All interference is banned. Otherwise, you're like always opening the door to that storytelling device, and you're training your audience to think that, oh well, when these, if you're telling me that there's not going to be any interference in this match, that means everything else is fair game, which it implicitly is. But you're telling them that. You're basically building to the fact that, look, we will only guarantee a clean finish when we put it in the gimmick. When we finagle the match, the stipulations of the match to guarantee you a clean finish. Other than that, who knows what will happen in AEW? Anything can happen in AEW. Anyway, enough jibber jabber. I feel like I've jumped through some talking point hoops. But ultimately the point is that I didn't think this was necessarily a great crowd. I think it was a crowd that unfortunately was lost at some point. I think they were in it, but I think that the card lost the audience at some point. So it's not just like Toronto crowd was bad. No, I think that the Toronto crowd was not bad. I think they legitimately were lost at some point, but they never really got back into it. Like, for some exceptions aside, but they never fully got reinvested in it. Anyway, let's start talking about it. And since I don't have like any I don't think there's any match that has a main talking point that I feel has to supersede everything else. Like sometimes I do. I think we're just gonna go. We're just gonna go through the card from the very top to the bottom. I think that's just like I typically do. We'll just start with the main event. Hangman Adam Page retaining the AEW Men's World Championship against Kyle Fletcher. Look, I started talking about it a little bit here. I thought this was great. I thought I thought this was an excellent pro wrestling match from these two guys who delivered the kind of match that I thought they were going to expect. That I expected them to do. How about that? You know, it's like I always say, the Hangman can't have bad matches. He just can't. Adam Page does not have bad matches. Kyle Fletcher, someone. I think it's DJ Convoy, right? On Blue Sky wrote something to the effect that what's great about Kyle Fletcher when he wrestles is that he looks hungry. Like he's always like sinking his teeth, biting and tearing apart whatever he's involved in because he understands what his ascension is about. Like he understands his mandate right now, which is you are not a top guy yet, but Jesus Christ, you're close. And the day that we push you to be a top guy is going to be extraordinary. So he knows he's building up this backlog, this resume, this mystique about him, I guess. You know, pick your poison on that one. And he's building it to the point where, to a point where eventually he's going to be an undeniable force in pro wrestling. And so here, what he's doing is jumping into these matches, and he's hungry to prove himself. He's hungry for these matches, for these big opportunities. I thought he handled this extraordinarily well. Am I surprised? No. I just want to point it out that he handled it extraordinarily well for a guy at 26 years old, who is on the cusp of greatness, who's in his first main event for a world championship on pay-per-view. I think he handled himself exquisitely. And again, I'm not surprised because he's been in high pressure situations before, maybe never up to this level, but he was flawless. I don't know what the problem is. He was flawless. And Hangman was flawless as well. But like I said, like the difference between Hangman and Fletcher is that we've had the Hangman World Championship run, and we've had the Hangman be a top guy in this company for a while now. So we've come to expect this out of Adam Page, which is, you know, great matches, because that's what he does for a living. He cannot have anything beneath a great match. Kyle Fletcher still has that he still needs to win over the audience on that front. And I personally think he did. Like, I thought he wrestled an extremely smart, compelling match. The whole story, you know, surrounding the neck. And they went over 30 minutes on this one. And I thought they were going to do the really bold thing and go time, right? Because here's the unfortunate thing. Here's the one thing. One of my few quibbles about the show. I felt that AEW, aka Tony Khan, wanted to let this match go longer, or long anyway, because he wanted to cut into WrestlePalooza as much as possible. Now, I am all for the competitive nature of, you know, two promotions jockeying for whatever, you know, for mind share. There you go. That's what I was for, mind share, and ultimately paying ticket buyers and so on and so forth. But when these little wars get so petty that then it impacts the matches, or what the customer experience, that's when I have an issue with. Like, I had an issue with AEW announcing 2 weeks before the show that it was going to be an afternoon show. I'm like, okay, that fucking sucks. That's, it's fine if you're from Toronto and so on, and I'm sure many people were like, I don't really care. But I'm sure people made plans for the tickets. Maybe people, who worked the weekends took they were like, I'll take Saturday evening off, maybe work a shift on, Saturday during the day. And then 2 weeks before, it's like, oh, no, you got to come in the afternoon. They're like, God damn it. People traveling, I don't know. Like, maybe like that's the kind of thing that ultimately impacts the fan experience. And those are things I can't get behind. And if you're deliberately having long matches to really cut into the other guys who are counter programming you right now, I'm like, did we really have to do this? Now, maybe not. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But look, once is not a thing. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times is a pattern, right? So let's just keep an eye on it together, shall we? Maybe I'm reading too much into this, and eventually, this will never happen again, and we'll just move on with our lives. Maybe, I don't know. It could be. Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe they just really wanted to run a 30+ minute match, because when they called the 30-minute time stamp, right? When Justin Roberts called 30 minutes, which is something that AEW does not do consistently, calling time cues. New Japan, they do that. New Japan calls the time cues. You have the announcer pop in and, say 10 minutes in, it's like time, 10 minutes have passed. And then we'll know how, that's consistent. And typically AEW doesn't do that. So when they do call the time stamps, then it's like, oh, then something is going to happen. And this suddenly truly becomes part of the storytelling. So I was thinking, do you think they're going time? Do you really think they're going to go 60 minutes deep? Which would be a weird message to send. Because listen, the story of this match has been Kyle Fletcher is not ready for this spot. Right? That has been the story of this entire feud. Hangman just telling Kyle, look, you're young, you're hungry, but you're not ready. And Kyle saying, eat shit, dude, farmer, cowboy. I am here and I'm ready to carry this company on my back. I am ready for this. So that was the nitty-gritty of the whole of the whole thing. So I feel it would have been strange to have Hangman and Fletcher go like 60 minutes if Kyle is not ready, right? I think 30 minutes of a well-executed pro wrestling match that maybe to a degree the Hangman was overconfident in, maybe to a slight degree, because maybe he wasn't ready for how much Kyle would be able to work the neck, and he really had to struggle and fight out of it, right? Maybe that could be a thing. But 60 minutes would have been too long, and I think it would have been really weird considering the story that we're trying to tell. Now, or the outcome of the story would have been, hell yeah, Kyle Fletcher is ready for the big time, and here's your new top guy, which again would have been strange. I think I'm very much a proponent of Kyle having a good, solid TNT title run. Like, the TNT title already feels bigger around his waist, so I'm ready for him to have a good run with it. But you can feel like it's part of an ascension. So the duration didn't bother me. Going over 30 with Kyle's first main event, I don't know, it didn't bother me. Like, part of the tale they were telling in the match is that Kyle was wrestling a smart fight. He was wrestling a smart match, and was able to persist that long because he knew exactly, he did his research, and get into the head of Hangman and was able to counter and work the neck. And Don Callis on commentary added a lot on that level as well. And this is a hard hitter, right? This was a really good, hard-hitting, physical match. They're throwing power bomb after power bomb and then Liger bombs and on each other like crazy. Hangman is doing he's doing Kenny Omega tributes. Kyle Fletcher's kicking out of all sorts of shit. I loved the finishing sequence, or at least towards the end, where Kyle is he's doing all these great counters to the buckshot, like just grabbing the arm and countering into a brain buster, for instance, and Hangman has to do the avalanche deadeye to get the win. It was a fantastic physical match. No, unnecessary interference. No, no tools and objects and stuff used right and left. No, this was meat and potatoes wrestling, is what it was. I really did enjoy it. I thought both guys looked great. If you still have doubts as to whether or not Kyle Fletcher is going to be a top guy in this business, I don't know what to tell you anymore. I don't know what to tell you. You're either the worst. You're either the worst judge of talent in the history of mankind, or you're just bad faith, or both. Which is the worst combination when you think about it. I gave this match 4.5 stars. Yes, definitely worth your while. Absolutely worth your while. It's a very good match with a lovely finish. Avalanche Deadeye and the buckshot. I think I just said Avalanche Deadeye for the win. No, it was an Avalanche Deadeye to really weaken Kyle, and it's the buckshot that got the job done. And like I mentioned just earlier, I really don't know what the crowd wanted out of this match. I don't know why they weren't more into it, why they weren't giving more to these two guys who are having just a great wrestling match. Just a great wrestling match. I don't know. All right, next, let's talk about the AEW World Tag Team Championship ladder match, where Brodido successfully retained their titles against the Young Bucks, Jet Speed, and the Don Callis duo of Hechicero and Josh Alexander. I don't have many thoughts on this. I am part of the group of people who don't get excited about ladder matches anymore, who don't really enjoy ladder matches anymore. I get bored. My eyes here in this match just glazed over at some point. I feel like I've seen every possible configuration of ladder match that possible, imaginable by humankind until the ladders become automatons and walk around the ring until the technology evolves. I don't know. And you might be here sitting, standing, running, walking, swimming while listening to this, and you're saying, Warren, you're nuts. This was awesome. And I mean, if this was, within the first 10 ladder matches I've ever seen, I'd probably be hopping up and down on my seat and screaming and going, yeah, this was absolutely phenomenal. But I'm sorry, folks. If you were expecting me to sit here and sing the praises of this match, I'm not your guy, because I'm all right. Look, the moonsault, the Bandito moonsault with the ladder was one of the wildest fucking things I have ever seen in my life ever. That was absolutely insane. This man is, look, he's, I sometimes say it, right? So, wrestlers are not like us. Well, this man is not like most wrestlers either. So where does that leave him? I don't know. I don't know. I've literally seen this match dozens of times. Dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I don't know. And I know it's, there's a few of us out there who can't do it. And maybe it's my own fault for watching too much wrestling, or maybe the problem is a little more systemic and there are too many ladder matches out there. The creation of the ladder match was one of the coolest and also worst things that ever happened in pro wrestling, because I have seen so many of them since, and I have seen great ladder matches. I've seen terrible ladder matches. I have seen ladder matches that have left people broken and injured. And that's always the risk you run now in 2025, is to have these ladder matches happen. And then it's to book these ladder matches. And then everyone in the match, because they know about the history of ladder matches themselves, they're wrestlers, they know what's up. They want to do cool shit, because otherwise people are just not going to remember them. People are just not going to remember the match. And there's a bunch of spots in this match that I've already forgotten that, because I didn't write down most of them, because look, my first note here is my eyes are glazed over. I have literally seen this match dozens of times. That's in my notebook right here. But I don't remember. Okay, what are the spot? The other spot, other than the Bandito ladder thing that I remember, is the Ultimo weapon that Mike Bailey did off of the ladder onto another perpendicular ladder. I think it was on Hechicero. It doesn't matter. See, I don't remember. And so he does that, and he sort of whiffs it. Kinda, he lands very close to Hechicero's head with his fucking double knees, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, And the other spot is Brody doing a tombstone on the ladder, and the ladder is clearly gimmicked. It's one of these fiberglass, ladders that WWE uses. With the way it's snapped, you could see it. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And the thing that I hate the most, and this is the reason why I retract that. I believe it's the reason why I don't like ladder matches anymore. I believe the reason is because the psychology is completely fucked now. Like completely and utterly fucked. You are in a match where you have to unhook the belts, right? You have to unhook the belts. You have to climb a ladder and unhook the belts to win. And everyone's climbing the fucking ladders, but then they climb the ladders and then they look up at the belts, look down at a guy, and they're like, I'm going to do something cool on the guy down here, who clearly will never have enough time to run up the ladder to keep me from unhooking the fucking belts. And Danielson, during this match, God bless him, Bryan Danielson on commentary was screaming out at somebody, I can't remember to who, or he's like, no, don't do the thing, focus on the belts. And I'm like, even Bryan Danielson is sitting at commentary telling us explicitly the psychology is fucked. It doesn't make sense. The American Dragon, one of the greatest pro wrestlers to have ever done it, sitting at commentary, telling us, the audience, explicitly, as someone is climbing the ladder and is looking down to do a cool thing. I think it was Mike Bailey before he did the Ultimo Weapon gimmick. I don't quite remember, but Danielson screaming, no, go for the belts. What are you doing? Correct. That is the correct answer. I don't even know. If I rate the match, I'm going to rate it unfairly. But what am I, and I don't even know. Objectively, everyone worked hard. The match was not bad. I can't sit here and give it a 2. you know, because that's preposterous. But analytically speaking, I can't sit here and go, masterful, wonderful stuff. Memorable. And that's the thing here that has also happened when it comes to taking these huge, dangerous bumps in pro wrestling. Look, we all remember Mick Foley and the Hell in a Cell bump, right? But do we remember the Kevin Owens one? No, but nonetheless, Kevin Owens had a huge fucking Hell in a Cell bump. Don't remember that one, don't. Yeah, like that's not the one that comes up in highlight reels or anything. They're just like part and parcel now. No one remembers them. You do it on the moment to get the pop, but then after that, they all mush together. It's all like, because there's so many of them. There's so many of them that they're not even meaningful anymore. And these guys did some pretty hellacious stuff. That's why I'm saying, like, I can't throw this match out and say, boo. What is it, 3.5, 3.75? I don't know. Is that, and I know it's low. Because, you're probably listening to this like, oh, fuck you, Warren Hayes. 3.5? I mean, it's a good match. 3.5 is a good rating. It's a good match. It's a very good match. 3.75? I'm not going 4 with it. I'm not going 4. I'm not going 4 on something that is just like, that is redundant and repetitive that we've seen so many times. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I almost would have preferred. What would be fun? Here's something that would be fun. It's a ladder match, but there's only one fucking ladder. There's only one goddamn ladder that you can use. Then everyone has to stick to some fundamentals here. Everyone has to stick to the same kind of strategy towards winning a match. I have to fight to win, as opposed to I have to, set up fucking structures like goddamn Tinker Toys. And then do a cool move off of them. Moving on, Chris Statlander defeated Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter, and Tekla to become the new AEW Women's World Champion. And first and foremost, I thought this match was a ton of fun. I'm going to tell you, as much as I don't like 4-ways, particularly for championships, okay? This was this is the best possible execution of a 4-way you can do. And it's based on 2 things. The first thing is that it felt chaotic. It felt like the pace of this match, I thought, was excellent. And we didn't fall into the trope of, all 4 women, start slugging at each other, then 2 get tossed out, and then 2 women fight for a while, then one of them runs in, throws the other one out, then she disappears for like 2 minutes so that these 2 can fight, and then the other one who hasn't been in the match really throws out that first wrestler out and tosses her out, and then those 2 fight for a while. We avoided that trope of having multiple singles matches within this one match, which should be a multi-person match, if that makes sense. For the majority of this match, you've got 3 to 4 women in the ring at the same time. And they were wrestling. This match was put together like with that in mind. So they're always doing stuff. They're always going after each other. They're always like, beating each other up and hitting moves, breaking things up. Like the pace of this match was really good and really broke from your typical structure for these multi-person matches. And that I thought all 4 women worked their asses off in this match. It was really, really tremendous. And you know what? You were still able to get like little moments where Tony Storm and Jamie Hayter, stare each other down and people get into it. That was a lot of fun. But the cherry on top was Chris Statlander winning by pinning Tony Storm, mind you. Look, I was 100% convinced coming into this that Tony Storm was not dropping the title. People are like, oh, Tekla. It's like, we're not doing Tekla. Not yet. I'm not saying never. We're just doing it not yet. We're not doing it yet. We're just not doing it not yet. We're just not doing it not yet. That's a double negative. That means that we're doing it. So we're just not doing it yet. But we're not look, fuck. Getting carried away with my words here. The point being is that, you know, I really didn't think Toni was going to drop the title. And it turns out she's dropping it to Chris Statlander with a great finish where she used, she being Statlander, used the seatbelt, which is Yuta's move. And, you know, sort of got a pin out of nowhere, but a clean win. Clean as a sheet. No nonsense. Didn't clock her across the head with a belt beforehand, or didn't do a sneaky steel finish, which permeates these fucking matches now, right? Where one guy hits his finisher on the other guy, but then the heel runs in and tosses the other guy out of the ring and then secures the win for himself. Like, we didn't get that. We didn't get any of the tropes. We got something fresh, something, and in fact, something that shouldn't be more of the norm instead of the typical usual nonsense that these matches get. And I'm not just blaming AEW. This is, you know, up and down in pro wrestling. The champion got pinned. And how's that for a mind fuck right there? Because usually these matches are conceived for the champion not needing to be pinned to lose, right? That's why that's why these matches are set up, which is, look, Hurt Syndicate, Bucks and Brodito from the what was it? Yeah, it was the Young Bucks and Brodito from the Forbidden Door match, from the Forbidden Door show, right? Like, that was how we were able to, was it the Bucks or FTR? I can't even remember. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank. But the point remains is that you still nonetheless have a situation that is built so that the Hurt Business can drop their titles. It wasn't the Bucks, it was FTR. It was bothering me, and I just ran it through my head, and it's because the Bucks were eliminated in the tournament. So look, I'm just glad I got it out of the way because it was bothering me. It was bothering me. Why can't I remember this? And I was like, there we go. Now I remembered it. There was the situation built so that the Hurt Business could drop the titles without getting pinned, right? So you could easily have done this here too. You could easily have had Chris Statlander, pin Tekla and become new champion, right? But no, she went right ahead and pinned the champion. So there's no dispute here. Toni Storm can't come back on Dynamite on Wednesday and say, "You'll never beat me for the title, you bitch," or "you sow," or whatever it is that she'll decide to call her. She can't do that. She can't do that. All she can do is respect, and that's what she was doing at the end of the match too, where she was like, "Okay, you got me. There you go." I was so convinced that Toni was going to hang on to the belt. I was convinced she wasn't losing. Convinced. So this opens up some really interesting possibilities, because now, arguably, the top face of your women's division, Toni Storm, is not champion. She's free to do whatever else. So this has the potential to be really, really, really exciting to see what they're going to do with this, unless she's taking time off. But I haven't heard anything. But nonetheless, like, it's still very, very exciting. It's still very exciting that she's going to be free to do some other programs that will not involve the World Championship. Not right now. I like Chris Statlander. I've always really liked Chris Statlander. I went on a couple of tirades recently saying that she was probably the worst booked wrestler in all of AEW. I didn't understand what they were trying to do with her. Still, I think things are starting to clarify now, is what I was trying to say. As far as her direction goes, I don't think she'll be joining the Death Riders anytime soon. I think it's pretty clear at this point that she's not going to do it. And we might actually lead to a match with Willow Nightingale, which I wouldn't hate. I think that would be tremendous, because, I was going to talk about it earlier, but I think it's time for AEW to put their big boy pants on and get Willow out of these multi-person prelim matches and get her involved into some big time shit because the crowd wants it, because the people are into it, because the people want it. They want to cheer for Willow Nightingale. They want to. Everyone fucking loves Willow Nightingale. Okay, it's just it's up and down, all fandom. Everyone fucking loves Willow Nightingale. She's an easy layup. So enough's enough. She re-signed. She's good for a while. Let's do something interesting with her outside of standing in the back during conglomeration promos where Kyle O'Reilly is doing goofy faces. Back to Statlander. This is someone who has grown so much in confidence and presence, who has understood how to be a television wrestling talent. She has always been a good wrestler. She's struggled through injuries, which are probably still nagging and persistent. Don't get me wrong. Like, you don't blow out your knees and be like, hey, let's do all the cool shit I used to do like that. But she's adapted. Not only has she adapted, but I think she's a day oneer who has consistently stayed, on TV and in the present in the minds of fans, and has become a television wrestler, right? You can't just come from the indies and then be plopped on TV and you're like, hey, you understand all the details and the smaller intricacies that are involved in performing for live cameras on national television. And I think Statlander was lacking that at first, but she has really grown into the role. Like, she has become much more solid on that front. And look, if they have plans for her moving forward, I can only applaud it. She's one of the best wrestlers they have on the women's side. She's extraordinary. We're gonna talk about day oneers in a little bit. It's like, yeah, but you got to support the day one. Yeah, but the day oneers, when you have day oneers like Chris Statlander, why are you throwing your support behind day oneers who maybe are, falling aside? Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. I am very excited to see where this goes because, of course, then it opens up a whole slew of new, fresh matches. It's good, and Statlander deserves to be booked properly. She deserves to have plans, which was my main complaint. I think she has everything in place now to try something else. So I'm excited about that. Plus, she's the first woman, not women. She's not multiple people. She's the first woman in the history of AEW to hold both the TBS and the World Championship titles. So there's your historical footnote of the day. I realized, folks, that I forgot to talk about the post-match of the AEW Tag Team Championship ladder match, and I apologize. So let's do it here. The Young Bucks are left alone in the ring once the match is over, and then Jack Perry comes in through the crowd, flips off the Young Bucks, who said, "The fucker, where have you been?" And the Young Bucks overwhelm him. They attack him. Lights go out as they are about to deliver a BTE trigger. The lights go out, and we get a little video of Jack Perry unearthing a coffin and bringing the coffin to a dank medical facility and reanimating Luchasaurus, right? Which kind of connects with the other, everyone is when they did the thing with Luchasaurus weeks ago. When they aired that video, there was a hand there of someone, doing something to Luchasaurus, and it was like, oh, that's Jack Perry. And they were right. It was Jack Perry who brought him back to life. He wasn't dead, but all right, I understand. It's symbolism. It's art. It's high art. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand. It's art. And so the lights come back on in the ring, and Luchasaurus is there, and he attacks the Bucks, and Jack Perry and the dinosaur hug, and he removes his belt. He being Luchasaurus removes his belt that says "Kill Switch," and he will now be renamed Luchasaurus. And they play the Tarzan boy, and people do the hand gestures and sing along. And it is 2019 all over again. Where is Marco Stunt? God damn it! Look, I don't have many thoughts on this. I think that I thought Jurassic Express was okay, that's not true. I do have a few thoughts. First of all, I'm nonplussed by a Jurassic Express reunion. They were always a very mid team. They weren't necessarily booked as being a serious, no, they weren't serious because the gimmick was that Luchasaurus is an actual dinosaur, but they were never booked like as contenders, as real threats, like not a tag team that you feel would pose any real threats anyway. So it's like, oh, okay, well, this is nice, I guess, for the fans and whatever. But then I realized, like, hey, you know what? Here's the thing, though. Here is something that I don't think happens very often in AEW because the company is very young. But I think it's notable that AEW is capable of, going, that it's old enough now, I should say, to go back into its past and, bring back one of its acts, just to dive back into what they, what they used to be and pull out one of their older acts and for a bit of a nostalgia kind of feel good moment. It's like, hey, these two guys that we used to watch years ago, man, it's nice to see them back together. It makes me feel good type of situation, right? And we haven't really, look, this is still a very young company. We're talking 6 years in at this point, or just about to, right? We're just on the cusp of, and we're capable of doing that. We're capable of going back and pulling out, something from the past and bringing it back and having people have like little nostalgia flashes. And it's like, that's kind of cool. Like, honestly, that's fun because it shows that the company is despite its young age, has a history and can delve into it and can pull something out like that. My last thought regarding this is that I think we all agree now at this point that the Jack Perry singles run was a bust. I don't think it ended up working out. That's what I see here. That's how I'm perceiving this situation, is that they tried their best. They tried their best with in the post CM Punk universe and all of that. And I think for a short while, there was enough heat being built behind it to make it interesting. But I think the fact is that ultimately Jack Perry underdelivers when it's time to be in the spotlight. I think both from on all levels of performance. I think he's a good little wrestler, but he's not a top guy wrestler. I think, I don't think he has he has the top guy blood in him. I think his promos are not very good. And even though he's cut a couple of them in the past that had some grit to them, it's like, all right, that's still not great. They shipped him off to New Japan for a while and you were like, oh, maybe something will sink in here. But then he was paired up with the dopes of House of Torture. So then, okay, all right. What are you going to do about that? This isn't exactly a learning excursion. So yeah, they tried really, really hard with Jack to get him over. They really did. And I think the shortcomings are not on the company. I think his creative was fine. I think his ideas were fine. I think they used, the real world situations that happened with CM Punk to his advantage. I think the only other thing that would have been better for him is to join the Death Riders. I think maybe that would have worked out better for him. Maybe. No way of knowing now. Like, you're not trying that out now. You're not doing that now. Not when the Death Riders have recruited Daniel Garcia, who is an overall much better prospect long-term for the company than Jack Perry. Do I sound like I'm down on Jack Perry? Yeah, yes, I am. I've been down on Jack Perry for a bit. I don't know. Look, I'm never an advocate. Look, I don't think he doesn't have value. I don't think this is a guy that doesn't have value that you need to throw away, fire him, But this is a guy who, if he left the company, just saying, I'm not clamoring for his expulsion, his release from the company. Far from it. But if he did end up on the free agent market, I don't even know where. Even if he went to WWE, wouldn't do a goddamn thing. It wouldn't change a thing. It wouldn't change a goddamn thing. WWE has Ricky Starks right now. And the best that they can come up with him is have him slum around on NXT with, whoever, the other scumbags over there. And Ricky has the charisma and the promo skills to get himself over. Not calling Ricky a super worker by any chance, but by any admission. But, Jack doesn't have the promo skills. Like, where does he go? He's not going to go back to New Japan. It wouldn't be, my point is that it wouldn't be a big deal if Jack Perry left. Now, if you want to keep him into your revitalized tag team division, and have him do something with the Bucks and Luchasaurus and have a little fun with that, that'll be completely okay. We'll be able to revisit some old PWG style matches with the Bucks, and then we'll end up watching those matches and go, man, these matches are tremendous, and then have them move on. I don't know. I've got so very little emotional connection that it's hard for me to sit here and get excited, get hype to a degree. I'm just like, all right, it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, back on track now. We're going to go to, we are going to go to the coffin match. There was a Mark Briscoe challenge that we should talk about, but we haven't talked about the Mark Briscoe match, so we'll connect those two dots a little later on. Let's talk, but no, we'll do the coffin match. Jon Moxley defeated Darby Allin. A bit of a surprising result, if only, but then again, like this feud must continue, so not necessarily, we're not calling the for the end of this all. This was violent, gleefully violent, brawling through the crowd, ear biting. I love this spot where it's the thing, right? When Darby has Moxley as they're coming back from brawling in the audience, right? And he's biting at his ear, and you're like, okay, I see what they're doing here, right? They want to reproduce the ear spot, and they're doing it like right around the barricade. And Mox is like one leg in, one leg out, from ringside, and one leg in, ringside, and one leg out in the audience. And you can see like he's fishing in his jeans, the little change pocket, and he's fishing in there with his finger, trying to get his blade out, trying to get his gig out, right? And then commentary, and I'm sitting there going, oh shit, okay, like this is not a good angle to be doing it. That's what I'm thinking right now. And then commentary is like, oh, he's reaching for something in his pencil. I'm like, dudes, no, don't point it out. Don't do it. Don't. Why are they emphasizing this? This is wild. Anyway, Mox, of course, Mox, of course, gets extremely bloody, and they're just like beating the holy hell out of each other's bodies, particularly Darby's. Just some insane spots right? We've got, well, of course, like it started with a coffin drop off of an entranceway when they were brawling, and I'm like, we're like 2 minutes in. I'm like, okay, here we go. You know, Darby's throwing himself everywhere. They do the bit, you know, again early on where Darby just spears himself into the coffin, spears him and John into a coffin. And the velocity on that was tremendous. That was such a cool visual. The impact and how everything just tumbled over, because Darby is insane with his topes. He's just nuts. I think Mox's fingers popped out of their joints at some point because he's all twisted. And I don't know, maybe he was just putting it on, but it looked like his fingers were really fucking gnarled. And he's just bleeding because then Darby had also hid like a fork in a turnbuckle. And I burst out laughing because he grabs the turnbuckle as John is like has him in a waist lock, I think. And Darby grabs the turnbuckle pad, and behind the turnbuckle pad was the fork. And he turns around and he starts stabbing him in the head. And I thought that was tremendous. And then the ear stuff, and John is just like he's a fucking mess. And then Danielson, who had promised to not get involved, but had whispered something to Darby, right? I think it was on the preview. I said, oh, maybe he told him I'll bring you a plastic bag. Well, goddamn, your boy saw it coming. And so Darby uses the plastic bag on Mox, which is still a fucking scary spot. To me, that's one of the scariest fucking things, mostly because I'm claustrophobic. So, anytime, your air supply gets cut off, and I'm not talking about the band, that is not good. So Pac returns as well. Pac is back. And I think the most disconcerting part of his return is that he was not in full gear. He was actually wearing pants and a shirt. Everyone's like, his hair is cut. You know what? I like the haircut. It'll freshen it up. I think, greasy, stringy, long hair, Pac is, it's fine. I like the shorter hair. But no, like Pac should, like I saw this and like Pac should never wear clothes. Pac should never wear clothes. Always in full gear. Well, when I say never wear clothes, never wear street clothes. You should always be in full gear. Always be in full gear. I don't know why. And it took me a couple of seconds where I'm like, oh, it's Pac. And I'm like, wait, why does this feel so off? Why am I feeling so weird about it? Then it's like, oh, because he's fully clothed. He's not in full gear. And Pac, he razors edges Darby Allin like over the top rope on top of a coffin on the floor, which was insane. And then he gets out a body bag and they stuff Darby into it, and he gets thrown in the coffin. The lid is shut, and Mox wins. I thought this was super fun. Jon Moxley, once again, Jon Moxley, top guy, Jon Moxley doing top guy shit. He is so good. He has been so fucking good since the creative aspects of AEW have left him and his group to just be just a bunch of thugs. That it's not like we need to rebuild AEW from the ground up. We have this secret benefactors. No. Ever since the post Adam Copeland feud, or at least after the pay-per-view match, when they did the bat match, right? Well, not the bat match, but when Jon Moxley got the spike bat embedded into his back, everything has been terrific. Has been great. What am I talking about? More than terrific. He has been great. And he is back to the ace status of this company. Every week on TV, having great matches, elevating people, doing great stuff, working with the young guys. Yeah, he's getting wins, and he should. It's Jon Moxley, and a guy like Darby Allin should fucking climb and claw his way to Mox, to get a win. And maybe next time is the charm, because we're not done yet. We're not done with this feud. Darby is just able to he has this crowd connection with the audience where people naturally root for him because he's small, because he gets thrown around and he gets the piss beat out of him, and he's always like trying and clawing his way out of stuff. And he's fighting Mox. Mox was the biggest bully in AEW right now, and he's tremendous. He is on a fucking great run. Right, he's been on a great run, I'd say, since March. And again, I had a rant about this on stream. I'm not going to relitigate that, but to think there were people, and you know who you are, who were pointing at Mox and saying, maybe it's time for you to hit the bricks, go join Chris Jericho, go back to WWE, which is insane that, you've never read his book if you say that. Go back to WWE. You're not needed here. You're washed. Can you believe this fucking shit? People lost their AEW. Let me say that again. There is a swath of AEW fans who completely lost their minds from March to July earlier this year. That just had the wildest fucking takes. And it's just like completely bonkers takes. And I saw lots of the Jon Moxley should leave stuff, and I thought these people were nuts. And I am glad that Jon Moxley is continuing to prove that he is valuable. Not just valuable, but a cornerstone of this fucking company still to this day. We're gonna, when we talk about the history of AEW, everyone is always going to say, without fail, Chris Jericho coming in was a big deal because it gave the company an air of legitimacy and whatnot. The thing is, Chris Jericho had been away from WWE for a while, so it didn't necessarily feel like a big steal. It was a big get, but it wasn't like he had already been gone for a while. So it's just like, wrestling legend Chris Jericho is here. Everyone knows who he is because of his days in WWE, so on and so forth. But the day Jon Moxley showed up fresh out of off of his New Japan tour, right? His G1, if I'm not mistaken. I might be getting the timelines mixed up, so let's not go down that route. But coming back from a tour of New Japan, after leaving the Fed, right? Tour of New Japan, and he shows up in AEW, his presence actually showed that, a guy who is still in his prime, who left WWE by his own volition, decided to come to this company, and he established that this was a viable second place for modern, for modern current wrestlers who are still in their prime, can leave the other place and come here to wrestle. And we can't forget how significant that message was as well. And that's Jon Moxley that carried that. And Jon Moxley also carried his vision of pro wrestling. The one that he could never be fulfilled in at the other place, where, he came back after injury and was asked to wear a gas mask and was told to say that everyone smells, everyone is stinky, and that's why he wears a gas mask. That's the shit he didn't want to do. What he wanted to do was come to AEW and wrestle and fight. And his presence also helped legitimize AEW on that front. Made people understand that this was a viable second promotion to WWE. I'm going to be sticking up for Jon Moxley until he can't walk anymore, quite frankly. Like, if he keeps on these types of runs, it's phenomenal. What are we even doing? I will not entertain any other types of thoughts regarding Jon Moxley. I really won't. And I thought they were overblown over the late winter, spring, and into the summer. I thought everything was overblown. Like I said, isn't it funny? He drops the title and then suddenly no one thinks he has to leave anymore. Anyway, anyway. After later on in the evening after the match, Jon Moxley's with they ran an angle where Jon Moxley shoos his Death Riders away, where he says, "I want to have a word with the coffin here because we're supposed to believe that Darby's dead," or whatever. I don't know. Says, I want to have a word with Darby, so he shoos them away. And Darby pops out of the coffin, and he gets the best out of Jon Moxley, and he has a weapon, and he sets Jon Moxley on fire in a body bag. Yeah, there you go. I mean, because, you know, AEW loves the fire, and this feud must continue. Kazuchika Okada defeated Konosuke Takeshita and Mascara Dorada to retain the AEW Unified Championship. God, this ruled. This was so good. This was an extraordinary piece of work by everyone involved here. Oh, by the way, I gave Mox and Darby Allin. I missed a couple of star ratings, didn't I? The women's four-way I gave 4 stars to. 4 1/4 stars for Moxley versus Darby Allin. And Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita, Darby Allin, Konosuke Takeshita and Mascara Dorada, not exactly the same guy. I'm giving that 4 3/4 stars. I loved this match. I love this match. Now, one of the things that I was worried about on the preview was like, it was the amount of effort that Kazuchika Okada was going to put in here, because, you know, he works when he feels the match is warranted, right? Otherwise, it doesn't happen very often in AEW that you get full strength Okada, full effort Okada. Sometimes you'll get 30% Okada, you'll get 80% Okada. We were very close to 100% Okada here. Like, he was into this match, and he worked, and he hit the big spots, and he was doing the pinpoint precise drop kicks and all that. You know, he was fantastic. So he is into this feud that he's got going with Takeshita. You can feel he's into it, and the structure of this match, the story that we're telling was so good, where it was like, hey, listen, we're here to fight each other, meaning Okada and Takeshita, and you know, the luchador, the little guy, you're just like, you know, you're in the way. So at first they're just like shoving him away, right? But Dorada just fought back, and this was truly his spotlight. This was a match in which Mascara Dorada got himself much more over with the AEW crowd, where everyone was, and he knew he had a spotlight on him. He understood what was going on here. So he wrestled a tremendous match. One of the best matches he's had all year, I would argue. And not only did he wrestle a great match, he wrestled it to the point that he was able to get this Toronto crowd on his side. This Toronto crowd, which had just been killed by the previous match. He was able to convert them to his side, a guy that, you know, they barely know. How many times has Mascara Dorada been on AEW television? Not that many. You know, he's not a regular star, but he comes out here and he is doing such fantastic work, hitting destroyers and 450 and doing that sweet double Rana. That was just completely awesome. And he's jumping onto the barricade to celebrate with the audience. Everyone is hot for him. Like, you know, I don't want to call this a star-making performance, but I will call it a breakthrough performance by Mascara Dorada. For those of us who watch Lucha Libre and CMLL, we already know how good this kid is. We already know how tremendous he is and how stupid young he is. We know all of this. But for your regular AEW audience, you're like, oh yeah, we know this guy. And maybe, you know, you hang out online and say, oh, I've seen gifs of this guy. Yeah, sure. But here he is stringing together a terrific match, which he was designed to lose. As I said, when I talked about it on the preview, he's not there for Takeshita to pin to win the Unified Championship, which is usually the psychology in this, where you have an obvious you have an obvious challenger to the champion, but you want to protect the champion, so you throw in a scrub as a third guy, where it's like, well, if this person loses, it's no big deal. But no, it was to protect Konosuke Takeshita. It wasn't to protect Okada. It was to protect Takeshita so that we can still have the pinfall between Okada and Takeshita somewhere down the line. A lot of speculation going around that it might be the Wrestle Kingdom main event, which will make a lot of people, a lot of New Japan fans really fucking upset. I don't think so. I think Tony's keeping that one for him because he's building it so well. He's building it so tremendously. This has been a feud that's been simmering for a while. You know, that you can go back for, you can go back months in the past for the first time, the first time that these two guys, crossed paths, just gave each other a dirty look. This has been extremely good. This face turn that they're doing with Takeshita is going to be an earned one. It's been put together brilliantly. Everything about this is excellent. And Dorada's looking really good in the process, in this match, because he's not part of the feud. But in this match, he looked phenomenal. And also proved to, again, I'm not aware of anyone's contractual situations, but if you wanted to put money on Mascara Dorada being one of the CMLL luchadors that has a double contract with AEW, I think that's a safe bet. I think you're making that money back. Dorada even does the moonsault into the standing moonsault gimmick. I mean, a little homage to Andrade, I guess. Probably not, but still funny. And he's doing destroyers and 450s and code reds, and Okada and Takeshita. They're so good in this too because Takeshita's being his usual like heavy-handed, big fists, big strikes. I mean. He type of guy, that's his bread and butter offense, and Okada's, standing up to him and just being so strategic. That's what they were saying on commentary. So strategic and thinking. He's so good. He was so good in this match. He was into it. This is a feud that he's into. This is a feud in which he's giving his 100%. Takeshita just has some great things coming up. So. Keep your eyes focused on this one. He's got some big things coming up, and look, Dorada, I think he's entered the consciousness of AEW fans, good and proper. And look, hey, if the dual contract guys that we're featuring are on AEW TV are guys like Dorada and Hechicero, okay, I'm completely fine with that. Why not more? Bring in the Villain 03 guys. Bring in the Villain 03 kids. That would be tremendous. Bring in fucking Zandakan Jr. I swear to God, this guy, if we book him on American TV, he's getting himself over 100%. Anyway. I thought this match was excellent. I thought it was just short of a true match of the year. I thought everything was so good. I love the finish, which is kind of a steal, but not really. Where Takeshita does the burning fire gimmick, and then Okada just comes in and decks him. But he doesn't just take the pin. He gets Dorada back up and rainmakers him for the win. And that's fantastic. I thought it was great. 4 3/4 stars. I think I already mentioned that multiple times. Great match. Not so great was the match before that. The AEW TBS Championship was defended, where Mercedes Moné successfully defended it against Riho. So there's a bit of a point of discussion on my Discord, regarding my thoughts about Riho on the preview that I did. I mentioned, I don't know about Riho. I don't know, am I out on her or not? And I was saying to myself, well, let's see how this match goes down on Saturday. And and people come after me, saying, well, no, man, it's Riho and she needs to shake off the ring rust. She hasn't been wrestling and so on and so on. I'm like, okay, sure, fine. What I saw in the lead up to this match wasn't tearing the house down, wasn't impressing me. I wasn't like, oh, okay. Like, I like Riho. I think I like the idea of Riho, and I like the memes, and I like, that's what I really appreciate about her. I don't know about her being a talent in 2025 AEW. Because look, this match was aggressively fine. I thought it was fine. Good little match. Nothing like I'm gonna forget, that I'm gonna remember. Like, not terrible, not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, but nothing where I'm like, okay, now I see it. Sorry, I was wrong about Riho. I can't say that still. I wonder what her spot is in AEW. Because here's the thing, is like, she disappears for months and months and months. Is this what's going to happen next? Is she gonna disappear like for another 8 months, only to be trotted back like in 2026 for a challenger for Chris Statlander, former AEW world champion, the first women's world champion? And you're like, who cares? Like, because what I noticed in this match is that Riho lacks crowd connection. Now, again, Toronto crowd, etc. But this is the match that lost them. This is the match that I feel where the crowd was lost. Beforehand, I thought the crowd was into it and where they were absolutely fine. But this match here, I was sort of shrugging and going, well, no one cares. And now, is she going to disappear again for another few months? Again, no one is going to care when she comes back. If they do want to do something with Riho, well, they gotta do something with Riho. Because in the meantime, and here's my main thing. This is the thing, and I can understand that some people are just like, they're Riho fans, and they just want to be invested in what she does, and I can appreciate that. But at this point in time in 2025, think about the top end of this women's division. In fact, think of most of the division. Think about all the women who are in that four-way. Think about the women who were in the there was a lot of great talent in the tailgate brawl match earlier on. Think about all of that roster and tell me, where does Riho fit in? And I don't see it. I don't see where she fits in. Like, honestly, if Riho comes back, because here's the thing that I'm always kind of thinking about. If Riho comes back and they start pushing her, whose spot is she taking? Because there's a limited number of spots. Now, you can argue Tony Khan needs to put more women's segments on TV and whatnot. Absolutely. Okay. Yes, absolutely. But she's still taking a spot nonetheless. There will still be a limited number of spots. So whose spot is she taking? Look, she's not taking Monet. She's not taking Tony Storm. She's not taking Willow's or Statlander's. Is she taking Tekla's? Is she taking Aminata's? Is she taking Alex Windsor's? Look, think of Alex Windsor, who just joined the company, 4 months ago? 3 months ago, tops? Like, officially? And she has already had a more significant impact. And she is much more of a compelling presence on AEW television than Riho is, who has the history, and she shows up and people go, yay, but then also, like, whose spot is she taking? Is she taking Julia Hart's? Is she taking Sky Blue's? She's taking Jamie Hayter's? And then ask yourself, is that a good trade-off? And I would argue that in most of those cases, it is a downgrade. And I don't care how much reps she needs to get back in. She needs to get back to excuse me. I don't care how many reps she needs to get back into shape, ring shape, I mean. The work that is being done with all of the women I mentioned, and look, I didn't even mention Megan Bain on top of that. The work that's being done with all of these women to get them over, to push them forward, to make stars out of them, and in many cases that it's being extremely successful. all the work that's being put in does not justify one of them having a spot being given up for Riho, who seems to be on a diminishing returns type of environment. I don't know. And look, she's in the ring with one of the best wrestlers on the planet, Mercedes Moné, who I thought they went to a 3.25 star match. Now, in my opinion, again, this is all my opinion. If you are in the ring with Mercedes Moné, who has been on an extremely incredible strip of matches, if you are in the ring with her and the best you can squeeze out is a 3.25 star match, I don't think it falls on Mercedes. I don't think the problem is Mercedes Moné. I think you might be more of the problem than she is. Because Mercedes worked her fucking ass off in this match. I don't know if you noticed. She worked hard. Now, let's have this discussion in a few months. If Riho gets showcased more on television, if she's, if she gets these infamous reps in to get her back into ring shape and whatnot, and then we'll see. I'm not throwing her out. I'm not completely out on her yet, but I'm still close. If anything, this match just bought her some time where I'm like, okay, well, this wasn't a complete disaster, but it sunk the crowd. It completely sunk the crowd. Again, like I said on the preview, I kind of wondered whether or not Tony Khan sort of lost faith in this match at some point. Maybe after he saw the tag team match with Alex Windsor, Emi Sakura, and Mercedes, where he was like, okay, because the push for this match became very, very low key. It ended with a match against Robin Renegade on the 3rd hour of Dynamite, on the September to Remember. It ended with the enhancement match with Robin Renegade, lost in the 3rd hour that, everyone knew that the ratings would be going downhill, that some people compared to a Rampage, right? Maybe AEW themselves sort of lost faith in how good this match could possibly be. Moné worked her ass off like she always does. She was very good here. She did everything in her power to make this match work and get Riho all of her spots and what she needed, but Riho didn't deliver on her end of the spectrum. That's just as simple as that. So there you go. Moving on. The GOA and Ricochet, what do they call themselves now? The Combine, the Companions. What do they call themselves? I didn't write it down. Shoot. Anyway, they defeated the Hurt Syndicate. The Demand. They call themselves the Demand. What is this? 2016 Evolve? What the fuck is this? I enjoyed this. I thought this was a good, solid match, well put together. But MVP. Look, I know there's a lot of discussion around whether or not the Hurt Business are doing good for themselves, are just looking out for themselves, or if they're really, doing good for the company. And I've heard backstage some backstage stuff, and I'm still very fearful about certain things. The report that was put out that MVP hates Mike Bailey just turned out to be complete and total bunk. So, if anything, look, if the rumors are indeed true, then okay, here you go. The Hurt Business politic their way into doing their best to not look bad in losing to Ricochet and the GOA, okay? And not allowing Bobby Lashley or Shelton Benjamin to be pinned, okay? That's fair. But let's say we flip this around, but let's say they didn't politic their way or whatever. Well, at the very least, listen, they're not going out there and trying to prove anyone wrong, you know, that Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are not just in this for themselves, because they're letting their manager with, you know, who had stepped away from full-time competing because of his knee surgeries and whatnot. They're letting him do all of the work in this match and letting him take the pin, right? Which, nonetheless, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense though, folks. Like, from a pure storytelling point of view, who should be eating shit in this match? Who is the weak link in this match? It's MVP. He's not a full-time wrestler. He stepped away from active competition, like I said, because of his surgeries. So he should, like, the story makes sense. There's one guy who should be pinned. It is MVP. And Ricochet ended up doing it. And did it clean, by the way. I thought he was going to use MVP's cane and all this. None of that bullshit. None of that. And I thought that was, I think that's very telling. Like, clean as a sheet. Now, again, like, is this going to keep the detractors away, you know, from, is this going to keep the detractors away from complaining about the Hurt Syndicate moving forward? No, absolutely not. No, we're still going down that way. But look, I thought this was a really strong match. I thought it was a good showcase of the GOA specifically, who I think are growing more and more on the AEW viewing audience. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Toa Liona, and I think he's growing into a spot here, which is fantastic. And I don't have many qualms with this match. In fact, I don't have any qualms with it. It was a solid match. That's all I really want. Solid matches. It's good. 3.5 stars. I really liked it. I really, really liked it. Ricochet wins with the spirit gun as Bishop Khan was holding what's his name, MVP. Oh, and there was this really fun sequence of spots on the floor where everyone's getting some shit in, and it's nice and brutal. I really like that. And then Shelton Benjamin is throwing German suplexes around. Like, here's the other thing. Is that, you know, this is kind of what you want out of the Hurt business too. You want them to just go around and throw people around. Like their whole chant is "we hurt people," and that's kind of what you want. They're perceived as these two incredible tanks, but just go for it, right? Just push that story home. I don't know. I don't know. Look, if they are like these political masterminds backstage, I mean, wow, they're getting everything they want. Isn't that weird? Isn't that just unique? And everyone is falling to their adept political skills. They're smooth talking. Everyone's fallen for it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think. Mark Briscoe defeated. Oh, just before that, excuse me, we had a little pre-tape backstage where Jerry Lynn is trying to get the Acclaimed back together. So I'm assuming that this means that Jerry Lynn is trying to turn heel. MJF loses to Mark Briscoe. Why did I say it that way? Mark Briscoe defeats MJF in the tables and tax match. Goddamn, this rocked. This was just so much fun too. This was a lot of fun. And Briscoe, when they start the matchup, they have the tax like in buckets, and Briscoe, he's just like, even before the bell rings, he's spreading the thumbtacks all over the rings. Like, nah, we're not just going to pull this out whenever willy-nilly. We're going to go straight for it kind of thing. We're doing this. Now, MJF comes out completely, dressed in white and whatnot. And also off of the mat, especially coming off one of the best matches you are going to see all year against Místico at the Anniversary show last Friday in CMLL. Trust me. It's one of the best matches you will see all year. I can guarantee it. But this is not the Anniversary show review. That will be coming soon, though. If you're listening to the podcast right now, it's coming right up. But for everyone else, it'll be coming out real soon. So MJF has one of the best matches of the year, an incredible affair. On Friday, takes a plane to Toronto to wrestle the very next day, mid-afternoon. That's cutting it close, brother, but good for you. And has this tremendous bloody fight with Briscoe, which was phenomenal stuff. And what I really liked about the match was that you felt at first that Max was not going to take any bumps. That he was, because at first it's Mark who's just taking bumps, right? When he's driving his head, Max driving Briscoe's head into the tacks and then body slamming him and whatnot. And you're like, this fucking MJF, But like any good heel babyface dynamic should, eventually the heel gets his comeuppance and Max starts getting tacks driven into his back because Briscoe is on top of things. There's the tables that are involved, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't, the tables, I mean, there's not table spots everywhere and all the time. There, except when Briscoe sort of goes on this rampage where he's driving Max through tables and doing the cactus elbow through the tables and whatnot. There was a little balance here. There was a little balance. Let's put it that way. And it was really good. It was so much fun. Such a solid performance by Mark Briscoe, who wins on top of that. I was convinced that Max was just going to move on and win the feud, but there you go. Mark Briscoe, who always loses matches, gets involved in this feud and works to finally, at the blow-off, getting the big win. Like, Mark Briscoe finally wins a big match, and I think everyone was excited about it. And essentially, this is what Max wanted to do, as you can tell. He wanted to go through these motions with Mark, wanted to give him some spotlight, working with the top heel of the company, one of the top guys of AEW, and lead to this big moment. And now we'll see what's happening, what goes on next moving forward for Mark Briscoe. It's very exciting. I'm very excited to see what they're going to move on to next. Is he going to be challenging for the world title? No, I don't think so. I don't think I don't think that's necessarily what they want to do. But if you want to keep him around the TNT title scene, especially since he has history with Kyle Fletcher, that makes a lot of sense to me. But this was just it was a good series of it was a good, brutal, smartly put together match. Well done. And MJF, just like, again, on top of his shit, just on top of everything. I don't know what to tell. The discourse has turned MJF into a bad wrestler. Like that's what it's done. Where you speak of MJF and it's like MJF is bad. Like you cannot have. It's very difficult sometimes to find nuance when it comes to MJF and his contributions to pro wrestling. And the facts are there. The facts are always there. Because every time it's time for him to step up and deliver, he steps up and he delivers and he's great. Every single time. He has an incredible match in Arena Mexico, flies over, does this great match here. Not as great as the CMLL match, the anniversary match show it's special, okay? It's a unique one, but he comes over and he has a great match nonetheless. But the thing is that next week, next Dynamite or whenever, when he shows up, he might cut a promo that's a little too long for some people's tastes, and then people are going to get mad all over, and people are going to get mad and say, see, he still sucks. But when the output, when it matters, he's riding up there with the best to do it. And he says it, and it's true. He's a generational talent. He's still under 30 years old. People seem to enjoy condemning him and just throwing him out with the bathwater when he is a phenomenal professional wrestler. Phenomenal. That has all the tools. But the minute he cuts a promo that's a little too long, they're not going to allow him any grace. That's my point. This is the point that I'm trying to make. I finally found the word. They're not going to allow him any grace. Where the minute he cuts a promo that he doesn't like, that they don't like, it's going to be like, see, boo, awful, shit, go to WWE. All this shit is going to start up again. Not a lot of MJF detractors going around screaming at how bad his matches were. No, they're auspiciously silent, and they're not necessarily giving him the credit that he deserves either. They're oddly silent. But you just wait, next Dynamite, if he does a 10-minute promo, oh shit. And it's not just like, it's not even a question where it's like, well, it should have been shorter and better. No, they're going to come full force and say, MJF again sucks the air out of the room. He's terrible. He's awful. We've always told you he's terrible. They allow him no wiggle room, no grace, because they haven't been talking about how great his promos have been either recently. They have not. They haven't been harping on, you know what, when MJF is focused and, has this angry vibe to him, he's really, really good. I didn't see like up and down social media people singing the praises of that great backstage promo that he had with Tony Khan and how cool it was and how different it felt. None of that. But you just wait till he hits the ring and you see everyone starting to, typing out groan on social media. You just wait till once we hit the end of the year and MJF versus Mystico is going to be one of the top rated matches. It's going to be an easy top 5, if not a top 3 across the board match from all of the outlets that you watch and listen for your pro wrestling stuff. You just wait. And then the answer will be like, well, Mystico carried. And I'm preempting this. Anyone saying, oh, well, it went up that, it's a match of the year because Mystico was able to do something great out of MJF or get something good out of MJF. Anyone who says that has not watched the match. They will be outing themselves as someone who did not watch the match. That's all I'm going to say. 4.25 stars, this match here. Let's connect that to Mark Briscoe's challenge, which he did later on in the evening. After his match, he's still bloodied and battered up, and he's got the conglomeration around him, and Roderick Strong and Kyle Fletcher is doing goofy faces as he's talking on the phone. No one does goofy faces like that when they talk on the phone. And Mark Briscoe sets up a challenge for the Don Callis family. He says, bring 3 of your guys, and I'm going to fight you with Kyle O'Reilly and a third mystery man that Kyle O'Reilly, is talking to on the phone. And they hint that it will be the return of Orange Cassidy. And I like that they're doing this, that they're bringing back their fan favorites and they're not doing surprises. Because AEW understands that they want people to tune in. They want people to know, hey, this is the return of Orange Cassidy, so let's tune in. Let's watch. Let's buy a ticket. Instead of just like surprises all the time and then, sort of going, why didn't you advertise this? like the return of Eddie Kingston, for instance, which was advertised, which people were excited and looking forward to. He defeated Big Bill on his return. This was messy. This was a mess. This was a mess. I don't think this was a good match. I think that, look, I gave it 2 3/4 stars. I don't think this was good, which is a shame because I wanted Eddie to come back in full force, but there was just something off here, man. It was just not working. It was just not working. And I don't know if it's the rust. I don't know if it's lack of chemistry. I don't know if it's if this is Eddie post surgery moving forward. But no, this wasn't it. And it didn't have like that Eddie Kingston fire, right? It didn't have that. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, which makes his matches compelling when he sort of when you get that pure, unadulterated authenticity from Eddie, right? Yeah, wasn't great. Did have the Claudio Sucks Eggs t-shirt, a call back to the Dusty Sucks Eggs tee, and and the finish was awful. The finish was so bad. Like the finish was a complete mess. And from commentary too. I was like, I'm doing one of these. I'm going, no. The back fist misses Big Bill. I don't know because I don't know if they were out of position. I don't know if Bill was supposed to be up on his feet, but Eddie was supposed to go at it a little blind. It seems like it was a complete mess. Like it missed Bill. The audience saw that it missed. That's why there was no reaction. And Excalibur, I think it's Excalibur goes for the spinning back fist, misses. He missed. And then Eddie covers and he goes 1, 2, 3 because it was the finish. I'm like, no, dudes, come on. Y'all should be better than this. Eddie, Bill, like you legitimately should be. It's like, now we got to do this again. Like we got to try we got to tack on 30 seconds to this and just make the finish good because that was awful. And then Danielson's going, oh, maybe he glanced him off the dome, or whatever the fuck. And I'm like, oh, this is so embarrassing. And it's so bad. It was all bad. Like it was already a bad finish, but Excalibur calling that he missed it. And then Danielson trying to cover for it. Like, God bless him. But it was just like, gasoline, more gasoline. I'm like, no, put it out. Don't add to it. Put it out. Stop. So not a rousing return for our boy Eddie. But am I happy he's back? Hell yeah. Because Eddie Kingston is a fun talent. He's a guy that everyone identifies with. I love Eddie Kingston. That's the thing, is that I love him. I really do. But this was not a good return. It's just it just wasn't, and the finish was so bad. And then the show opened up with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage defeating FTR. Show started with Adam Copeland marking out at a poster of Wendell Clark. Right? If you're not into pro hockey and the NHL, Wendell Clark is a legendary player for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and did anyway. He played for the Leafs for a while, and Wendell Clark turns out he's there, and Edge is like, oh, Wendell Clark is here, kind of thing. And the thing is that Wendell Clark, again, if you're not aware, he's a goon. Like he was a very successful enforcer type, a hockey player. Don't get me wrong, but he was a goon. So anyone going around saying he's my favorite he was my favorite hockey player, it's like, oh, okay, so you were in for it for the fights. It's like, oh, okay, you're one of those who used to buy Don Cherry's, greatest hockey fights tapes back in the day. All right, you're one of those. That's the sense. So I see what kind of hockey fan Adam Copeland is, although he was probably just, goofing off. And then we had, Canadian sweetheart Bubbles from the Trailer Park Boys, who was there, and in the show, Bubbles is a pro wrestling fan who has an alter ego called the Green Bastard. And I love the Trailer Park Boys on Trailer Park Boys. I've watched all Trailer Park Boys shows. I thought it was so good. It's still funny. Like, I still think it's really funny. But I don't know. I don't want to see Bubbles hanging out backstage and having conversations with Copeland. So, of course, like, this was done for Canada. This Bubbles is, he's a Canadian national icon. It's what it is. It's fine. It's fine. But also, And Cage was no selling the whole thing. I think he said something. I don't remember. And then that led us to the match. And I got to tell you, this was not for me. This was exactly what I was talking about at the start of the review. A match where you just wait for stuff to happen. You're waiting for the interference to happen. You're waiting for things to happen because, it's just, it was a bang average match that was surrounded by, good intentions, good vibes for the crowd. The Toronto boys and the whole Canada shtick that they did before with Bubbles and Wendell Clark, and and then Beth Phoenix shows up out of nowhere. This woman who is not employed allegedly by AEW comes out to full music and Tron. She's got the whole thing. Like, oh, what the fuck is this? And Copeland hits a spear. Cope in this match he's booked like Brock Lesnar or Hulk Hogan. He's kicking out of everything. He's kicking out of shatter machines and power plexes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? Like, why are we doing this? It's Adam Copeland. Jesus Christ. Why is he kicking out of all of the all of FTR's finishes? Why is he doing this? Like, I don't understand. Like, clearly, I think he designed this match. I think he designed it because it calls to all of the WWE match structures that that I can't stand, that I'm done with, that include all sorts of nonsense in it and just distracts from any wrestling match that's going on. And that's exactly it. Like, there was at some point you're like, well, there's no point to all of this, right? There's just no point. So Copeland, being able to kick out of everything was extremely strange. And then of course there was his tribute to John Cena, which I don't know what to tell you. If in any other circumstance than in the circumstance that AEW was in on September 20, 2025, okay? In any other fucking circumstance, I'd be like, that's cute. It's like, But this thing happened on a day where WWE decided to counter-program this show and did it in a way that scared AEW so much that they decided to start the show earlier in the day rather than do it in the evening and really go head to head, and added John Cena and Brock Lesnar to this show to try and stick it to AEW. And we're going in here and saying, hey, John Cena, we're doing a John Cena tribute, which I would not have an issue with. I don't care. In this circumstance, look, I say it often. The lore of AEW is the lore of pro wrestling. So if Edge wants to give a little salute to one of his longtime rivals who is retiring this year and do a little tribute spot to him, I am completely fine with this. The issue that I have is on this day, on September 20, 2025, and having then the crowd chant Cena in the audience and getting one of the biggest pops of the night. That's preposterous. That I have no time for. That, it baffles me. This is something that Tony Khan should have put his foot down and say, look, Adam, I understand. It's cool. We'll do it at World's End. I got this great idea. Set up for you. We'll do it at World's End. Not today. Not necessarily a good idea. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Again, like this would not get me fired up if it wasn't for, it wouldn't get me fired up if it wasn't for the context. The context here is so important. I don't know why they decided to do that. I don't know why it was okayed. I can understand why Adam Copeland decided to do it, because that's exactly in his instincts to do. Like, this is a guy, and we saw it in this match. This is a guy who wrestled his entire career for Vince. He knows only one way how to do wrestling. Only one way. And it's Vince's way. And if this didn't scream WWE match to you, like, this is an Adam Copeland special here. If you were to tell me, oh yeah, these are all Adam's ideas and he practically put it all together, I'm like, sure, of course he did. Yup. I believe you 100%. Because again, Christian Cage, he's adapted. Christian Cage has been nothing but phenomenal in his entire AEW run. FTR right now are in the best, I think they're the best run of their AEW career. I think they've been tremendous. And they were not even able to shine in the way they usually do, because they had to, accommodate for all this bullshit. Because this is the same tag team that for 2 weeks in a row on Collision, have legitimately great matches with Adam Priest and Tommy Billington. And you're like, these guys are fucking great. And now I see them here and I'm like, this is mid. FTR are better than this. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I disavowed Adam Copeland. I just went extremely hard on him. And look, this is what happens when you let this guy go unfettered. Like, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that he got everything through. That this is all by his design. Right down to his fucking wife kissing him. He gets handcuffed and she's like, kisses him and then goes after FTR. Says, I love you. As if she's going to fucking Vietnam. As if she's, she's in a fantasy movie and she's about to run straight into the dragon's mouth and slay it, but she's also going to die in the process. It's like, woman, you're just about to go beat up a couple of dudes. And then she gets the stuffed pile driver. And I'm like, she's a pro wrestler. What are we doing? She's done worse. She's been through worse. She's wrestled Eve Torres. She's done worse. She's had worse happen to her. This did nothing for me. A mid-match with a lot of, stuff happening to, make you feel good about what? I don't even know. Like, what is it supposed to make you feel good about? I don't know. I've got nothing for you. I've got nothing for you on this one here. But you see, the Toronto crowd was into it. So you see, to my point earlier, this is how the wrestling audience has been conditioned now. It's like they want the surprises, they want the shock. Beth Phoenix showing up. It's like, okay, sure, I get it. They had sowed the seeds of it because Stokely was making fun of her, and look, they've been teasing Beth showing up in AEW for years. It's like, okay, it's fine. It's all fine. It's just written Beth. It's like, am I watching Rick and Morty all of a sudden? It's like, it's a Beth. Because they can't use Beth Phoenix, right? They can't use Beth Phoenix. So it's like Beth Copeland. I don't know. That's the main show. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. No. The tailgate brawl. The Saturday tailgate brawl had, here, I'll run through the results quickly. Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs defeated the Workhorsemen. I thought that was, it wasn't the tag team match that I was hoping for, but it was a nice little crowd pleaser to open things off, even though really nothing of value happened. Yeah, gentleman's three type of situation. Daniel Garcia versus Katsuyori Shibata, I thought was good. Where Daniel Garcia defeated Shibata. I gave this a 3.5 stars. I thought it was very, very good, very solid. And then we had surprise, Hologram and Paragon versus the Frat House. So that was an enhancement match. I don't rate those. And the Tornado Tailgate Women's Brawl saw Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Aminata, and Willow Nightingale defeat Megan Bain, Penelope Ford, and Julia Hart, and Sky Blue. And that was bad. It was not good. So there you have it. AEW All Out 2025. Reviewed in the can. Like I said, a good show with some extremely strong matches on it. And look, if you're looking for recommendations, I think the back half is very good. I think Hangman and Fletcher is excellent. I think the three-way match for the Unified Champion is excellent. But the Coffin match was a blast. MJF and Mark Briscoe is a blast. The women's four-way for the World Championship, also a blast. And if you're still into ladder matches, the tag team ladder match is definitely for you. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is in the pantheon of great AEW pay-per-views, but it's not bad. Far from it. Very good pay-per-view, very entertaining, lots to love, as opposed to the opposite. So, voila. All right, it is time to review the CMLL Anniversary Show, which took place on September 19, 2025. Of course, over in Mexico City and Arena, Mexico. Where else would it be? Another packed house, packed to the gills. Just hanging from the rafters, as we like to say. And a great atmosphere, great ambiance. People were ready for the show. And it's a show overall that I enjoyed. I thought was pretty good. It ran the gamut, didn't it? It ran from, it ran the gamut from top to bottom, just from not great matches to an absolute match of the year candidate, if not the best match of the year. I don't know. I'm just throwing out there. Like, you've got a complete spectrum here, but it's a show overall that I enjoyed. Like, when I think back on it, getting my thoughts together for this review, I'm like, you know what? I like this show. I liked it a lot. Was it great? No, I've seen CMLL Anniversary shows that were, much better than this. But in the short time that I've been watching and going back and, delving into the older stuff, but this was good. This was good. And it is absolutely compounded by one particular match, which, look, it's the lead. There's no use in burying it. We're going to start by talking about it, which is Mystico defeating MJF to win the World Light Heavyweight Championship. And it was a title versus mask match. So, of course, Max's title was on the line against Mystico's mask. And this was one of those that, in the lead up to this show, there was no question in anyone's mind, nor myself. There was no question that Mystico was winning. There was no way MJF, as we were thinking about it and talking about it and exchanging ideas and whatnot, we were all thinking the same thing. There's no way Max is going to win and remove Mystico, the hero, the icon of CMLL, Lucha Libre, like in modern day. No way he's taking that mask away. But I'll be goddamned if he didn't make me believe in this match that he just might go ahead and do it. And I'll be damned if he hadn't had 16,000 people in Arena Mexico believing that Mystico was in fucking trouble. This match, and I know I like to be, sometimes I like to be hyperbolic, right? As any good wrestling, commentator, analyst, pundit should, quite frankly. I know I like to be very grandiose sometimes, but I want you to listen to how serious my tone is as he starts giggling like a schoolgirl, right? But okay, I'm being super serious right now. This is one, excuse me. It's like I'm laughing now because this setup is so ridiculous, and I do want to say something very sincere, and there's no bit behind it. Look, this is one of the best wrestling matches I have ever seen. Point blank, finished. Like, let's move on. Next match. Let's go to the Las Chicas Indonables. No, we're not doing it. But I legitimately mean this. There hasn't been, this is in a handful of matches that I will always remember, and that I will 100% revisit on occasion, where I'm like, you know what? I feel like pulling this classic up. God damn, this was great. Like and from the get-go, like Max goes right after Mystico. Like, we don't even finish introductions. There's a lot of ceremony when it comes, especially in Anniversary. In the Anniversary environment, there's a lot of ceremony, and you want things to be able to breathe. But Max was having none of this. And the reason why this match worked so well is because there was one emotion carrying it all. Hatred. It's just as simple as that. There wasn't anything nuanced. There wasn't respect. It wasn't, Mystico doing this because, he wanted to test himself. No, he hates MJF, and MJF hated him back. And all of the absolute disgust and anger that they felt for each other poured into this match. And Max wasted no time into making this anger become real by tearing at Mystico's mask and then throwing him against the barricade and then against the post to have him bleed. And the brilliant thing here, this is the brilliant thing. I feel I need to point this out, and I'm going to give credit to Max. I don't know if this is something that he realized on the spot, but I'm going to give credit that he did, because it is so brilliant, right? He grabs Mystico, he's torn at the mask, and he grabs Mystico and he throws him into the barricades, right? And they're just they're standard, contemporary wrestling barricades, right? There's nothing special about them. It's just, and he throws him into it, and then you can see Mystico, he's sort of reaching for his gig, and he's gonna puncture himself. And I'm seeing this, and I'm like, oh wait, he's gonna blade on that? And I'm like, that's kind of lame. Quite frankly, how many guys get thrown into barricades and they don't instantly juice, right? So I don't know if Max saw that what Mystico was doing and was like, look, we gotta pull this up. And then he grabs him and he throws him into the steel post. Okay. And when he's throwing him into the steel post, then, Mystico bounces back, and with the camera angle, as he's turning around, the blood is starting to pour because Max got him immediately after he bladed, tossed him into the post. So Mystico, while he was on the ground gigging, he hadn't started to bleed. There wasn't any pooling or anything. I thought that was brilliant. It was a brilliant move, because now it looked like the post absolutely 100% opened him up hard way, which it didn't. But like I said, I don't know if this is just Max thinking on his feet, if it's cat-like reflexes, or if it's just happy coincidence. I'm ready to give credit to Max on that one. That was such a fantastic visual. And then for the entirety of the match, Místico is covered in his own blood. I did not realize how good of a bleeder Místico was. It was phenomenal. It was legitimately one part scary, one part disgusting. And Max is painted in his blood, not because he's doing, a heel thing where he's grabbing the blood and painting it all over his chest or whatever the fuck. No, he just by performing moves, by putting into, a headlock or, tossing him around, he's getting blood all over him just by being there. just by standing around doing shit to Místico. You will be hard pressed to find visuals as compelling and as memorable as Místico with his mask half off, it's like just torn down. You see part of his face, obscured by the blood that's just pouring down his face. His white mask, he's all in white. He wrestles usually in white, so it wasn't necessarily a clue. His mask is just soaked. It's just soaked with the blood, and there's so much blood that it's shiny in the lights. Do you understand how much this man bled? And he bled throughout the entire match. It didn't like close up at some point. How it happens sometimes, where you're gonna get a good a good first gusher, but then your body's gonna get to work and it's gonna plug that shit up. I don't know if it's Místico who just worked at it to keep it open or whatever the fuck, but even at the end, he's on all fours after the match, and you can still see the drips of blood, falling from his head and staining the mat. It's just phenomenal stuff. It was just absolutely phenomenal stuff. And the crowd, absolutely rabid for this. This absolutely out of control. You could not have had your favorite superhero, which is essentially what Místico is, right? The king of Mexico City. You could not have had a better setup than this guy who got mugged on his way to wrestle his match, got brutalized violently, his life essence is pouring out, while this motherfucker, this other asshole from the United States, right? Because dare I forget that MJF, when he came out, right? John Cruz was there dressed as fucking Abraham Lincoln with the stovepipe hat, and MJF comes out literally dressed like Homelander from The Boys, and we used to make so much fun of Cody Rhodes coming out with his gear and going, Cody, that you're Homelander right now, right? Where it kind of looked like it, but it wasn't exactly that either. And then couple that with the blonde hair, and everyone's like, oh, come on, what the fuck, But here, MJF, there, like that, it was a costume. He was literally Homelander. So it's I don't know if the reference was lost on whether the reference was lost on those present or not. But nonetheless, he's still coming out, as a superhero with stars and stripes and all this bullshit, right? He still looks like an American superhero. So anyway, Místico, at a complete disadvantage, being brutalized by this American asshole who's been popping on this show, disrespecting us, coming into our sanctuary, right? Arena Mexico, belittling us, belittling our wrestlers, Lucha Libre. He just happens to be light heavyweight champion, right? There's no way Max is a light heavyweight between you and I. And it's like, well, fuck you. Everything just came together so good, and Max was so honed in on this. Like, as much as his last two showings in Arena Mexico, he was playing like that classic Rudo, right? Where he comes in and he's just being a dick. You know, he does a move and he's like, and then he starts flipping people off and he's taunting the crowd. Here he was so 100% focused, laser focused on wanting to leave the arena with Mystico's mask. Like, that was his primary motivation, his first mission. And that's why he continued doing what he was doing throughout the entire match. So Mystico, for the longest part in this match, he's trying to string some offense together. He's having his babyface comebacks, and Max always has an answer for them. He has the old eye poke, that's always at the ready. Mystico does his stuff, the tornillo and flying crossbody. But in the meantime, as we continue, like, he's losing blood, and Mystico is pawing at his mask. He's going like this. He's trying to get the blood out of his face, out of his nose. He's trying to get, like, the blood is not just, think about it with a mask. It stays there. It's got nowhere to go. It's being soaked into the material. So he's like having trouble breathing. He's having trouble seeing. So he's spent trying to do moves, but nonetheless, he pulls off, a springboard destroyer, right, on MJF. MJF does an awesome package pile driver right on the apron, which drove the crowd bananas to the point where Mystico is trying to get back into the ring, and he just beats the count, and he goes for the La Mística, but Max blocks it and reverses it into a tombstone pile driver. People are going nuts here. Audience is completely out of control. You have John Cruz giving Max the dynamite diamond ring, but Mystico kicks him in the balls while the referee is distracted because of John Cruz. Because even Mystico's like, no, fuck this shit. I gotta play dirty here. Referee turns around, he covers him. Max kicks out. The crowd is absolutely ballistic. The progress of this crowd, the crowd added so much to this match because they were into the stakes. They were believing that their hero could lose his mask, and it was huge. And finally, Mystico locks in La Mística, and Max is struggling. Like, he's crawling to the ropes like as quickly as he can, because in CMLL, as opposed to in American wrestling, submissions, you don't stay in submissions for like 60 seconds, 90 seconds trying to get out or power out or whatever. Usually submissions are a sign that you're about done, and especially La Mística, which is like one of the most protected moves, in pro wrestling, essentially. So Max is trying to get to the ropes as quickly as he can, and Mystico just rolls him around, and Max taps clean, and the match ends, and the crowd erupts. And Me Muero plays. The Mystico came out to the song as for his entrance, so it's playing at the end, and he struggles to get up. He stumbles, like he tries to do the pose on the corner turnbuckle, and he flounders. He can't make it up. And Templario, who had been cornering him, Templario sort of, it's okay. And eventually he does get up on the corner and he poses with the belt. And in the meantime, while the hero is standing tall, you've got MJF who's crawling away up the ramp on his hands and knees to the top of the ramp, where he lays back in the steps, and he's like, head in his hands, and he can't believe that he lost. It's an incredible piece of business. Just an incredible piece of business. One that just it brings you back to really the essence of what pro wrestling is. It's just heroes and villains, good guys and bad guys. There weren't like shades of gray and cool heels and, and on top of that, just like straight, clear action. Not like, fucking wives interfering or, the Avengers assembling or, lights going out and then popping back up and then the Undertaker's in the back. Like, none of that fucking shit. Just the purest example of what pro wrestling can be and should be, where it's two guys who have made us believe that they legitimately hate each other with all their might, to the point that they are beating the absolute piss out of each other. No one wants to give the other guy an inch. And then you have the villain and the hero who's being as valiant as he can to try and mount a comeback, and he does. And it's such a simple structure. It's such a simple structure. But it was delivered, the storytelling in the match was pristine. Like, these guys understood everything they needed to do. Their chemistry was off the charts. It was just so natural for both of these guys to fill these roles. And I mean, like, both of them play it's natural for both of them. Mystico is a born babyface, like hero of the people type of thing, like the most classic El Santo shit you could have. And MJF, on the other hand, is your penultimate heel. That's what he was born to be. Like, he's fucking, he's Roddy Piper, but meaner, nastier, worse, kind of thing. This is why, look, this is the type of match that when we get into American wrestling and the matches, particularly the main events for world titles, have all these things happening where there's a ref bump, and then there's like a cavalcade of interference happening, and then everything goes off the rails. This, like, it's because of matches like this that I can't stand the other stuff, because everyone should be able to do these types of things. And you're going to say, but Warren, like, it's such an old way of doing wrestling. Wrestling is so different now. You have to have different layers of stories and whatnot. But I'm going to counter this by telling you that watching that match felt so fresh and different that if a promotion decided to go down that kind of path and build to where we understand the hatred between two people, and they can have a straight, no frills, ungimmicked, big time match and sell it to us as such and be compelling at the same time, that to me would be fresh. Because doing the other stuff is getting old. It's been old for a while. But what Max and Mystico did it's so basic that it feels innovative, if that makes sense. It's so simple, it feels new. It feels fresh. It feels like we're trying out something that's never been done before. I'm not saying this never happens in North American wrestling. In American wrestling, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't happen enough. We always have to tweak something. We always have to make it more complicated than what it could be. And the thing is that, let's say we take the example of AEW, particularly because I don't watch WWE these days, so I don't know what's going on specifically, right? But in regards to AEW, you can't make me think that there aren't people on that roster who can't pull this off. In fact, AEW has a roster filled with so much great talent, so many people who could pull that kind of shit off. Simply. But you just have to give it a shot once in a while. Instead of trying to trick out your main events, you could do this. And at the same time, I'm saying like I'm talking like AEW's never done this, but they have. They have done this in the past. Why don't we see that more often? Look, we saw it with we saw it at All Out. I'm recording this obviously after I watched All Out. But we saw this at All Out with Paige and Fletcher, who had a straight up wrestling match, and it was terrific. Now, continue to build at that, crank up the emotion, crank up the hatred, push it up another notch. It's not as if these companies aren't capable of doing it. And it's not as if the wrestlers are unable to do it. Somehow we're afraid to do it because this is not what wrestling is anymore. Wrestling in 2025 is something else. It's got to be a bloodline, right? That was the thing. When the bloodline was hot, we knew it would trickle down into every other aspect of pro wrestling. But that's the thing. It's like, oh, now you have to have, these long epic stories. And no, you don't. No, you don't. You really don't. You just need talented people who know exactly what the fuck they're doing. Mystico knows exactly what he's doing. MJF knows exactly what they're doing. Two students of the game. Two people have been around long enough to understand how to make things work. At least, I say long enough. Max is still very young, but like he's brilliant at this. Yeah, he's brilliant at wrestling. So, of course, he's going to pick up on all the things. He's a student of the game. You don't think he's watched how to be a Rudo in CMLL? You don't think he's watched tape and understood it? No, of course he has. Yeah, the proof in the pudding over everything that he's done over the summer doing shit with CMLL. Mystico was born in it. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. Like, he wasn't born in it, but he's the standard bearer. He, of course, will understand how it works. And he's a top guy and he wrestles like a top guy. Jesus Christ. Is there a better case for the Flair Thez award for the Observer Awards this year or next year, 2020? Well, you know what I mean. Like this year. I'm not talking about the Hall of Fame. I'm talking about the Observer Awards. Is there a better candidate than Mystico this year? Like, I'm legitimately drawing, I don't know. Maybe Saya Kamatani. Maybe. I'd love to hear arguments on the side of both. But goddamn, I mean, Mystico is on he's in a class by himself right now. I don't think anyone else comes close. No one comes close except maybe Saya Kamatani. I don't know. I might have to put some thought into that. Because they're both terrific wrestlers. They're both they both have great crowd connection. People love them for different reasons or hate them in the case of Saya, right? Their draws. I guess it's going to boil down to numbers. Because look, I think Saya overall is a better worker than Mystico. I think she's a better overall worker. But Mystico, the way he works is so good and sound and solid and connects with the audience. And plus he draws 12 to 16,000 people every fucking Friday night. And then when he goes to, fucking Arena Pueblo or, Arena Coliseo, he's packing the house up every time he goes anywhere. Saya's at the top. Is at the top of Stardom, while Stardom is on the best financial run of the entirety of the existence of the promotion, and she's champion right now. So maybe she's not drawing 16,000 people a night, but she's packing the houses. I don't know. Okay, so we went off on a sidebar here. We went off on a little sidebar here, but I'll think about it some more. And we really, really have to stop pretending, because it's pretending at this point, that Maxwell Jacob Friedman is bad. I was listening to Joe Lanza on some audio that he did, and he said something that struck with me, where it's like, look, I've been talking quite a bit about how I feel that the discourse regarding MJF is completely unfair. People have decided that he's bad. So whatever he does, when he does good things, we sort of shove it aside and say, oh, well, Max had a good match. Yay, kind of thing. But then, let's say he has a 10-minute promo on Dynamite this week. Then, we're going to start throwing tomatoes at him and say he's horrible. He's shit like, and that'll be the discourse for the next week. And how bad, like it's going to be the Brandy promo every week when it comes to MJF instead of focusing on his noticeable and very impressive positives. And Joe Lanza, to circle back to that, said sometimes he fears that the conversation has swung way too far in that regard, in regards to MJF being bad. He feels like with fans, it's just swung all the way too far, and you know, it will take a Herculean effort to have that swing back, and that's a shame. And that's just people that are stuck on their own hangups and can't realize just how much of a special talent he is, just because he cuts a little too much promo time. He has a little too much mic time, and they are under the impression that he is in control of all his creative, and that there's no one, you know, that there's, you know, he goes unfiltered on TV and no one ever tells him no. You know, that's the narrative that goes around because it suits the people who don't like MJF because, you know, he does an edgy joke now and then, or because his promos are a little long. Look, I got over the brochacho stuff. I got over it. And I think there's a lot of people who are still living with PTSD from that era. Come on, it's time to wake up. The war is over. You know, get out of the weeds, okay? Step away, get out of the reeds, get out of the marshes. The war is over. And then he goes and does his match with Mark Briscoe the next day. Come on now. Anyway, I don't want to turn this again into a pro MJF rah scenario, because I've done it already. I feel like I've done it 4 times this week on 3 different bits of audio. So yeah, so it's like, it's fine. That's the long and short of it. We'll get to the rest of the match. We've been talking exclusively about this first match, but I mean, that's the one. Like, look, as far as a recommendation goes, like, this is the one where you drop everything and you find this match. You just go ahead. Like, it is, you know, I think you can still purchase it on Triller, right, for $20. Go ahead and do that. Purchase it for $35 on the Legends tier for over on the CMLL YouTube, and then you'll have access to everything for a month, which is a really good deal. Just find it, get your hands on it, watch it, enjoy it. Turn all of your fucking devices off. I don't want you live tweeting this. Absorb it. It's legitimately one of the best wrestling matches I have. It's right on top, right in there. It's one of the best wrestling matches I have ever seen. Ever seen. But Mystico is champion again. And it was absolutely phenomenal. So so we really had to start with that, because the rest we can sort of go through and sort of break down the rest of the happenings of the show. One of the things that I did notice too about this show, which is not necessarily specifically wrestling related, is that the CMLL seems to be embracing the made in Mexico mantle a lot more. It seems to be like there was 2 things that I noticed were different from the presentation. There was this one logo that read Hecho en Mexico, right? There you go, Gringo Warren here talking. That logo appeared a few times on screen, and they also had another tagline. Their usual tagline is the best lucha libre in the world, but they added an extra little tagline. There's like a secondary one, which basically translates to proudly Mexican. I'm like, isn't this interesting? And then during the show, there's a lot of ceremony during the anniversary. They truly do celebrate the history, take the time to celebrate the history of CMLL, and they invite dignitaries from the company to take part and, celebrate the history of the Luthero family, and then also show the upcoming generations, right? You got even out of the little kids. I don't know who they are. I don't remember off the top of my head, and my Lutheroth lore is not quite as profound as many other CMLL watchers, but you know, like there was the whole family there, all the way down to, you know, the newest kid, you know, who might, like, in, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years, be at the helm of all of this, if, you know, if you want, I guess. I don't know how their succession works. So, and it might be really complicated because I watched a TV show about successions. Anywho, so during this bit here, Mystico was there with a few other wrestlers, and they give the microphone to Mystico after all of the ceremony, the protocol, I guess. And Mystico gets into his rah-rah speech mode where, you know, he pumps up the crowd. And look, I don't speak Spanish, but, you know, I do speak French. French and Spanish both have Latin roots. So I can make out some things that are being said, even though it's not perfect. But he essentially was saying that that Lucha Libre, CMLL is essentially a company made in Mexico, and CMLL's Lucha Libre is made by Mexicans for Mexicans, essentially. I'm sure there's more nuance to it, but I was able to pick that up. And I thought that was very interesting. I think it's very interesting because clearly what they're doing here is establishing a line here, and they're addressing the WWE takeover of AAA without, or TKO takeover of AAA, the WWEization of AAA, but without naming any companies by name. If you follow pro wrestling, you know exactly what Mystico is talking about. So all of this sort of ties into a new vibe that they're in a new campaign. Actually, it seems it looks like a PR campaign to, you know, ignite the fan base, right? To ignite the fan base, get them excited, and to, you know, just drop a hint and say, look. Essentially, what they're saying is this: whatever the other guys are doing, you know, it's not for us anymore, and it's not made by us. You know, the gringos came in and took over. So whatever you're going to get there, it's not by Mexicans for Mexicans anymore. It's WWE with another name. That's not what he said, but that's essentially what he means. And if you want the real, authentic experience, you want to be connected to the tradition of Lucha Libre as it's meant to be, like for us, by us, for us. That would be CMLL. That's us, baby. That's kind of what he was saying. I of course, I embellished it a little bit, quite a bit, but you know that's essentially what it is, and you could tell it was rousing the crowd. You know, summoning the nationalist fervor, the patriotism, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, yeah, fuck yeah. And good for them. Good for them. They should be doing this. They should be taking like these nice little shots across the bow here and focus on their natural competitive strengths, and one of them being, you know, homemade. Look, it happens all the time in America when something is made in USA. It's plastered everywhere. It's the same thing in Canada as well, especially these days. There's a lot of pride that goes into, you know, something made, you know, in your country. You understand like what all of that entails. Why not do that? Why not do that? And you know, CMLL has never hid its patriotic side as well. You know, during this, or you know, it's patriotic / nationalistic, cultural side. I don't know exactly. I think I'm tripping over words here. It's maybe not exactly what I'm trying to convey, but you know, they occasionally, like for big events, like at the Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago, you know, they bring out the military fanfare. They bring out the Mexican military come out, and they play some music. They play the national anthem. Everyone's standing up, doing the pose, and singing along to the anthem. At the anniversary show, they had some traditional dancers who were there in the middle of the ring, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, this kind of rocks. This is fine. This is actually kind of cool. I'm the outsider looking in. I'm like, that's neat, and it continues to show that CMLL is not afraid. Has always kept that. Has always had that aspect of their product very much alive. This pride in Mexico type of thing, maybe, and it can express itself in multiple ways. And so I can't say that I'm surprised they're going down this route, but they're being vociferous about it. They're being loud about it. They're clearly going to have a little campaign around it, and you can't blame them. And I think it's good. Like, they're not going to be able to beat them on any financial level, they being TKO, right? They're not going to be able to defeat them on any financial level. The best they can do is just make sure that everyone understands that, culturally speaking, the other guys are the phonies. They're owned by international interests, kind of thing. All right, let's go to the top of the card, to the bottom of the card, and work our way up. First show on the match was the CMLL World Women's Tag Team match, where La Jarochita and Lluvia defeated Persephone and Reina Isis. What are my notes? I don't think I have much to say here. The Technicos tried hard. Yes, the Technicos did try hard. I thought Persephone and Reina Isis worked as hard as they could. I think Lluvia stinks. I don't think she's very good. And La Jarochita is, she tries her best. I think there was some cool stuff at the back third of the match, but nothing special. And a bullshit result. Like, I was like, just, tag up Persephone and Reina Isis. I understand that this was just like the second defense of the titles for Lluvia and La Jarochita, but who cares? Like, Persephone and Reina Isis are, much more compelling tag team anyway. 2 3/4 stars for me. That's pretty much it. The Chavez brothers, Angel de Oro and Niebla Roja, defeated the Villano kids, the Villano 3 kids, El Hijo del Villano 3 and Villano 3 Jr., to retain the CMLL World Tag Team titles. I believe this is their 24th successful defense. So these guys are on a roll. And I was really excited for this match, and it delivered. I thought it was great. I think Villano 3 Jr. is terrific. I love the Chavez brothers. And, El Hijo de Villano 3 he's not bad. He's good. Like, don't get me wrong, he's good. But Villano 3 Jr. is really the breakout between the two. And I kind of feel like he connects better with the Chavez brothers, whereas El Hijo, he's I don't know, he's not as crisp, he's not as tight. There was a bit of a rough start here going off but they pick things up really, really quickly. There's this great spot where Niebla Roja has one of the Villano kids on his back, and then he does the pendulum swing with the other one. He has him on his back in a gory special, is what I should say. And then he picks up the other one and does the pendulum thing at the same time. I'm like, that's a strong lad there. That's pretty cool. The Villanos are doing all sorts of dual offense, dual moonsaults and stuff like that. Crowd is hot for this. Very pro Villanos. They like the Villanos. I think they're kind of like, in CMLL, you'll often see like, wrestlers, when they start getting too successful, the audience will turn on them sometimes. And I think we're kind of getting at that point with the Chavez brothers, where it's like, like I said, 24 successful defenses of the titles, and the audience is kind of going, maybe it's time to move along here. So we get the Chavez brothers in dual submissions by the Chavezes, Los hermanos Chavez. not Chavez. Chavez. Los Hermanos Chavez. The Villanos are able to break free. So then what the Chavez brothers do is that they set him up on the turnbuckle. Well, one guy's flat on his back. I think it's El Hijo who's on his back. And then they lift off of the second turnbuckle. They lift Villano 3 Jr. and they slam him onto his brother on the mat. And then they go back to the submissions, and that's where the boys tap. Really good match. I thought this was terrific. I was this was one of the matches I was most looking forward to because these are two teams that I really, really like. And it delivered. It was really good. It was hot. It had some super stuff in it. The crowd was into it. I'd give it the old three-quarter stars kind of thing. That's what I do. The old 3/3/4 stars. How about that? Next, we had a best 2 out of 3 falls match, an Australian rules match for Atlantis Jr. and the Sky Team, Mascara Dorada and Neon, because the other Sky Team guy was busy with the Gringo. They defeated Hechicero, Volador Jr. and Zandokan Jr. in a really fun trios match. There's so much cool shit happening in the opening minutes of this match. Like there's so much, just some great, awesome, cool shit by the Technicos who get the first pin. And of course there's the rally from the Rudos for the second one. And then the Technicos mount a comeback with a big set of topes, like some really, really great dives to end it off. And Mascara Dorada gets the win with the shooting star press. You know, Mascara Dorada, I think he's wrestling I think he within the last 5 days, I think he's wrestling 6 matches, something to that effect. Like I'm recording this on Sunday, the 21st, and he's I believe he was in California wrestling 2 shows, and he did AEW yesterday. He did AEW yesterday. He did Arena Mexico, obviously, on Friday. So that's 4 matches. I think he did another thing Thursday. And then he did, and then he did AEW on Wednesday. So, you know, we want to talk about MJF's schedule, which is intense, don't get me wrong. But Dorada, holy mackerel. I mean, he's taking the bookings when he gets them, and he's go. And I think it's starting to pay off for him. Like I said, you know, when I did the Dynamite review, you should check it out when you have a minute, unless you've already listened to it on the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast right now, like I said on the on that bit, Dorada is I think his match at All Out was a breakout performance for him when it comes. Well, in regards to AEW fans, I think it was a complete breakout performance for him. So good for him. Something was a little off with Zandokan Jr. He's usually a little more involved. I don't know. There was, maybe he's nursing a little injury and he wanted to work the big show. I don't know. I don't know. Templario and Titan defeat the Galeon Fantasma duo of Barboza and Defunto, Zandokan Jr.'s 2 other dudes, right? In the final of the Copa Independencia, I was really looking forward to this match, and I gotta say it underperformed regarding my expectations. I'm a big Titan fan. I'm a big Defunto fan, and I love Templario on top of that. I don't know. It was good. It was solid, you know, but it didn't click. There was just, I don't know. As much as MJF and Mystico had that chemistry, I don't know. It wasn't there. It felt like everyone was having an off night. I feel like Defunto is better than this. Titan is definitely better than this. Templario is better than this. You know, Barboza's fine. Like Barboza's all right. You know, he's the third guy. He's the third guy. It's fine. You know, it's like what were they called? Gallus, right? You had Mark Coffey, you had Wolfgang, and then you had the other dude, Coffey's brother, Brian, Serge. We call him Serge Coffey. Sounds like a pretty good brand actually for so. I don't know. Hey, and listen, don't write in the comments, okay? Actually, Warren his name because I don't give a shit. I don't care. I really don't, because if I cared, I'd pull up Cage Match and check right here, right now. But I don't care enough to do it for the third guy in Gallus. What the fuck are we talking about? So Barboza is Surge Coffee in that regard. Yeah, 3.25 star. I don't know. Good enough. Like I said, solid, and I enjoyed it, but this is definitely one that went below my expectations. Felino versus Ray Bucanero, which was a hair versus hair match, ended in a double disqualification, and this was something. Let me tell you. So, from what I understand, Ray Bucanero and Felino, they're generational rivals. Apparently, they were on years ago when they were still, young and fresh, at least as young and fresh as possible at that time. They were on a reality show, and they were playing off each other, and there was a rivalry between them on the reality show. So that bled into CMLL, where they had like a cage match where they already had a hair match. I can't remember who won, but not that I watched it. I'm just coming off of notes and research that, stuff that I was reading about, particularly thanks, of course, to Cubs fan over at Lucha Blog. And that was kind of like the impetus of them always like being at odds with each other. And they've been in multiple cage matches against each other, whether it's just like the one-on-one situation or in multi-man matches within a cage. And they're getting up there in age. These are not necessarily young spring chickens. It's always hard to get the ages sometimes of luchadors, but Ray Bucanero, he's been doing this for 33 years. Felino, as for him, 43 years. Like, he started wrestling in 1982. These are not young men. And all of us kind of watching, like, this was the first match announced for the anniversary show. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was like announced back in early July or late June, something like that. We're like, oh, we're already making matches for the anniversary show, and we're doing a hair versus hair with Felino and Ray Bucanero. It's kind of weird. Like, everyone was kind of like, that's odd, because it's kind of like it's not it's an interesting feud because it has history. But if you're just jumping in and you don't know what's going on, you're seeing two old dudes wrestling, going for each other's hair. And we're talking, look, this is not like two old dudes, like, these are not like Blue Panthers wrestling. No, these are guys that are, they're showing their age a little bit, right? A lot. So, it's a good B-tier feud, essentially. And somehow it's finding a big spot on the biggest show of the year as a hair versus hair match. And it led to all sorts of speculation, people thinking, oh, well, it might actually just turn out to be a retirement match, and so on and so forth. And it was like, all right, look, we get to the match, right? And you're like, you can see in the way they move and, how they're applying holds and whatnot. You're like, okay, this is not smooth. It's a little rugged. It's a little rugged, okay? And they're doing pretty good. It's like I said, it's a couple of old dudes wrestling. It's fine. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. But it's also not great. It has that combination. But I'll tell you one thing, and here's where I'm having a real struggle trying to make my mind up in regards to this match, because I'm seeing the limitations. And I'm seeing Felino, who is doing bare minimum work, while Ray Bucanero, he's just like, he's jumping off of shit. He's doing splashes from the top rope onto the fucking stage. He's doing cannonball sentons off the apron. He goes to do, at some point he's got Felino on the apron and he goes to do like a senton off the top rope, and Felino just rolls out of the way, and this guy just lands flat back, just flat back on the apron. It's like, holy fuck. And he's bumping so much. Like, he's bumping so freaking hard. And Felino's doing jack shit. Felino's just like, oh, I'm here for the ride. He's taking bumps, obviously. He's got the other guy, flying on top of him and whatnot. But, who's getting the brunt off of a senton off the top rope that lands flat on the apron? Like, who ate the worst of that? It ain't Felino. I'll tell you what. And then Felino does the thing where he's holding on to the ref, and then he does like the inverted kick between the legs to kick him in the no-nos. And so he does that, and he can't seal the deal. He goes to cover Rey Bucanero, and Rey Bucanero kicks out. And it leads to both guys just like straight up kicking each other in the nuts at the same time. So they both collapse, and the referee calls the match, which then leads to a rule in Lucha Libre that I didn't know. Like, if a hair versus hair match ends in a double DQ, both guys lose their hair. So the barber comes out and just snips the hair, and that's it. I struggle with this match because, like, technically it's not great. Okay? Like, it's really not great. But that's also the charm of it, if that makes sense. Like, there's something inherently charming about it because it's so rough and tumble, and the guys are so unpolished, but Bucanero is doing all this crazy, like, not outrageously crazy, like, doing a moonsault with a fucking ladder, but crazy enough to, take bumps off the, flying off the top rope on the apron, where you're like, you don't need to be doing this, dude. Like, so I'm really struggling to sort of put my thoughts together and say, did I hate this? Did I like this? And I think I as I'm talking, I think I liked it, but not like too hard. It's so, like, I don't know how, because it's not a great match. Like, it falls into, it's not a great match. And if anyone were to tell me, Warren, you're completely out of your gourd, this was a bad match, I'm like, sure, I understand. Yes. But I think that's also the charm of it. Again, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I recommend you watch this. I don't think it's recommendable. I really don't. I think most of you are going to watching and like, yeah, this, Warren, take your pills, go to bed kind of thing. Old man Hayes. But I'm still thinking about the match. Like, that was the thing that when I was putting my notes together to do this, that was the thing I was struggling the most with. It's like, what am I going to say? What's the angle? What's the tangent that I'm going to take here? And look, I think that's the best way to express it. Like, I'm going to give it the gentleman's 3, but like, it's like a 3.5 in my heart and a 2.5 in my brain kind of thing. Maybe 2.25. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and give it the old 3, and because I enjoyed it? Question mark? Say, let's why don't we move on? Because the next match was Místico MJF. We already covered that. That leads us to the Eliminatorio de Parejas Increíbles. The three-way tag team match in which friend and foe are paired, and the object of it is that you want to win this match so that you can face your tag team partner immediately after in a singles one-on-one match, which will either be hair versus hair or mask versus mask, depending on the team that wins. So as far as the tag team aspect of this match goes, I thought this was fine. I thought the highlight was I really felt like the highlight was Barbaro. I didn't even tell you who was in this. You had Dragon Rojo Jr. and Barbaro Cavernario, Averno and Ultimo Guerrero, and Esfinge and Valiente. So those were your three teams. And Barbaro Cavernario, I thought like he was kicking things off, and he had grit, he had energy, he had just like backbone to everything he was doing. And I was like, oh fuck, I hope he stays. I hope he stays for as long as possible, because I had predicted that Esfinge and Valiente, excuse me, it's Esfinge, Warren. Esfinge and Valiente were going to be the two who were going to make it to the singles match. Unfortunately, that was the case. Well, unfortunately, not unfortunately. What I mean is like Carvenario didn't make it, but he was in the first team that was eliminated. And that kind of pissed me off. I was like, okay, this guy is, he's injecting so much life into this. And these are the dudes that are following up Mystico and MJF, okay? So Jesus fucking Christ, let's have some guys in here who can light this place up, because it's going to be a challenge, and it really was a challenge. But Rojo and Cavernario got eliminated. Cavernario got covered, got pinned, so he lost it for his team, and Dragon Rojo Jr. didn't care much for that. He was hot, and they brawled to the back. Averno and Ultimo Guerrero seemed to be on the same wavelength. They were doing hand signs and high fives and all sorts of stuff, but not enough for them to get the best out of Esfinge and Valiente. Which led us to the Apuesta match, which was a mask versus mask one. Which again, and Valiente ended up losing his mask in a match that was good. A solid, if not very average type of match that really wasn't helped by going after MJF Mystico, which is absolutely bonkers that these guys had to follow it. There's no way they were living up to that. The crowd was expended. They were spent. They were still into the match, don't get me wrong, especially towards the end of the singles match. But it was good. It was solid work, but there was just no life to it. And I'm going to tell you, Esfinge and Valiente, not exactly my two favorite workers in CMLL. Valiente is one of the older guys. He's up there. And Esfinge, younger dude, but I don't know. His work is okay. Like aggressively okay. He doesn't come across as special to me. I don't know. He doesn't do it for me. And the thing is that these two guys, I think this was the third attempt for these two dudes to get into an Apuestas match like this. I think this was their third attempt as a team of a team of opponents, of rivals, to make it to this point. So it really felt like they were blowing this off. Like from the get-go. It was like, oh well, okay, it'll probably be Esfinge and Valiente then that are going to make it to the end, and they did. And it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. It was solid. It was good stuff. Like overall, I'd give all of this a 3.5 star effort. But are you looking for a 3.5 star main event to your anniversary show, which is technically speaking your biggest show of the year? Probably not. But I mean, and I understand why they finished with the mask match, because the Apuestas match, because that's tradition. That's usually it. Like, you have all these titles and whatnot, but there's nothing more significant in Lucha Libre than someone losing a mask. So it should end the show. It's a big deal, and I get it, and I'm into it. They really should have ended with Mystico and MJF. Because I often hear when it comes to Arena Mexico, obviously I've never been there, but I often hear that there's a substantial, let me rephrase that. There's a portion of the audience that will leave once Mystico's match is done. They come to see Mystico, they see Mystico, they leave. So I don't know if that impacted. I don't know how many people left. I don't know. I don't know if anyone really left in droves. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It's probably a couple of people who left, to beat the traffic or whatever the fuck. You need to grab the bus. I don't know. But I do know that happens too. So maybe that would have been the best idea. Maybe this match wouldn't have felt as average, as okay, like a good match. Don't get me wrong, but nothing that should, chime in the end of a big lucha libre event, and especially when it was with two guys that just don't main event stuff. Esfinge never main events. Valiente, if he has it, it's been years. So, it's like, it's a weird decision overall. It's a weird, like your real deal main eventer was second from the top. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining and say, well, they should do this way. It just came across as weird. There's some traditional reasons as to why they decided to do that too. So yeah, like I get it. I understand it all. I'm not stupid, contrary to popular belief. And here's the other thing I think that didn't really help this match either, is that in the singles portion, is that Esfinge ate shit the entire match. And I mean ate shit. Like he barely got any offense in, couldn't muster up any proper comeback spots. Like the deal was Valiente is going to beat him down for the majority of the match so that Esfinge can have one big rally and get the win. And that's exactly what happened. And you could see that coming at some point. Like at some point, like you're 10, 12 minutes into the match and Esfinge can't string anything together. Valiente is just demolishing the guy, covering him and doing, what do I have to, giving you the reactions of what do I have to do to beat this guy kind of thing. And it's not compelling. Then it stops being compelling. Then you're like, oh, well, I see where this is going now. It loses its luster. It's not, and you're like, well, okay. The finish was way too telegraphed, essentially is what I'm trying to say. It really, really was too telegraphed, and the structure didn't help. So Valiente gets unmasked, and as they usually do, I love this bit where the announcer then goes to him and he's got his little notepad and his Bic pen, and he's like, okay, you got to tell me your name, And then I like to think, or maybe this is the thing, because I like to think that the commentators, they don't know any of the real names of these dudes. Under the mask, they don't know who they are, right? And maybe that is the case. Maybe they do keep them in the dark. I don't think so. But yeah, it's still my favorite part. So he comes up and he, what's your name? He writes down the name. Where are you from? And then what's your age? And he puts it all down. So Valiente turns out to be Fernando Vega from Guadalajara. He didn't give his age, but he did say he was 26 years a pro. Big moment, of course, hands his mask off, gets a couple of licks in after on this Esfinge because he's a little pissed off. But Esfinge will be fine because his girlfriend came to visit her. She was drunk in the audience, the old Tessa Blanchard. So we don't have to worry about that. Because we saw her. Why do I know? Because we saw her. What a jump scare. I'll tell you what. So that's the event. That's the anniversary show. Like I said, like a good show overall. It takes you through the gamut of emotions. And look, if you want recommendations, okay, here we go. Mystico versus MJF. That's the one you have to watch. Can I recommend anything else? I mean, the trios match was good. The Sky Team Atlantis Jr. versus Hechicero Volador Jr. and Zandakan Jr. Plus, there's names in there, faces in there that American fans might know. If you watch AEW, if you're plugged into Ring of Honor, you've seen a lot of these faces as well. Of course, Hechicero, Mascara Dorada recently. Atlantis Jr. has been there. Volador Jr. has been. couple of times on AEW's Ring of Honor programming. I don't know if Neon has. I can't remember. Pretty sure Zanakan Jr. hasn't. CMLL, I think they don't want to start shopping that guy around because, oh boy, let me tell you. So, you know, I mean, it's not a great match, but it's fun. And I guess the CMLL World Title match, which is on the same level, not a great match, but fun. And you know, if you want to sit down and watch it from top to bottom, including like the interludes and the protocol and the music spots, the dancing, you know, it's about what, 3 hours 45 minutes. I mean, it's really not that bad. So, you know, if you have a little evening in front of you and you don't know what else, you can just plop that in and skip the stuff you don't want to see. Like you don't even have to start with the women's tag match. It's not good. So you can already skip that. And if you want to skip Felino versus Rey Bucanero, you can as well. Or you can watch it and come back and tell me, you know, Warren, you're completely insane. Or no, I'm with you, brother. Whichever way. So that's the anniversary show. It will be memorable. This is a show that will be remembered for one match, and sometimes that's all you need, especially when the match is the match we got. It is absolutely phenomenal. I can't put it over enough. One of the best matches I've ever seen. Hopefully one of the best matches you will ever see as well. And that about does it for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you all very much for joining me here today. It was my pleasure to serve you with some great wrestling reviews. Hopefully, I think they're great. You thought they were great. I think they're great. I think they were pretty good. Hopefully, you enjoyed them too. Listen, one more request for a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, a 5-star rating on Spotify, or a like on YouTube. Those things are terrific always, and I will be back. Maybe a little program note. I don't know when the Dynamite review is going to be out. I do have some engagements. Maybe I'll be able to squeeze it through. I don't know yet. Maybe. But if it doesn't happen tomorrow on Thursday, then at the very least, it will take place on Friday. You will get a review of this week's Dynamite regardless. So there you have it. Otherwise, you know, streaming and all that, it keeps going and going. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for hanging out to the very end. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and I will see you next time.